Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the classified pre-retirement seminar for 2025. Thank you all for joining. Today's seminar will be comprised of 4 speakers. The first one is Peter Quinn, who is representing the 457 plan. Then we will have Christian Hawkinson from TIAA talking about tax-deferred annuities. As you know, as a classified employee, a number of years ago, we opened up when we severed our ties with Halliday and MetLife. We opened up the TIAA TDA to all participants, so all classified employees are eligible to participate in the TIAA TDA, and so we have a representative from TIAA to talk about that. Then we have Tamara Telesco, who's going to talk about estate planning. She is also from TIAA. I think estate planning is very important for CUNY employees, CUNY retirees, because some of you retire with substantial estates, after working at CUNY for all of your career for long periods of time. So estate planning is something that is not going to answer all of your questions, but it'll give you a starting point. It'll remind you of the questions that you should be asking if you went to an estate planner. At least you will be an educated consumer and have a good frame of reference and starting point. And then finally, Frank Brown is going to be here from NYSERS. He's going to talk about the NYSERS pension and all the different tiers and all the retirement options as it pertains to your NYSERS pension. And with that, I just wanted to also add, just in case Peter doesn't bring it up, the reason why I invite Peter from the 457 plan is because even if you are a year or two away from retirement, the 457 plan is an alternative investment option for you, because even if you maxed out on your your TIAA TDA, and you maxed out according to the IRS limits, you can actually double that. You can also max out on the 457 plan. The two plans are not coordinated. So, this is the opportunity for you to sock away as much pre-tax earnings as you can before you retire. And the 457 plan essentially gives you the option of doubling your TDA contributions and maxing out on both plans. And that is why Peter is here today. And I think it's an option that not a lot of people are familiar with or utilize, but even if you're a couple of years away from retirement, it's still really a good option for you. So with that, I will pass the baton to Peter, and you can go ahead and share your screen.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. Just let me know if the slides are up. I always have an issue with the Zoom versus Teams meeting, but can you see the?
We can see them, but we can see all of them at once. There we go. All right.
Yeah, and I just wanted to. Great. Again, my name's Peter Quinn. I am an account executive with the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan, also known as a 457 plan. And basically, my role is to help get people into the plan, get them enrolled, answer any questions that you may have on the plan. And I also do a lot of one-on-one consultations. If you are, nearing retirement, even if you're years away from retirement, and you just kind of want to make sure you understand all the different features of the plan, I'm happy to help with that. So at the end, I will send Talon an email with some attachments, the enrollment form, highlights of the plan. But the most important thing is on the bottom of the email, there'll be a button where if you wanted to click an appointment with me, you can look at my calendar, see what works well for you, and just book it online. But let's get into the presentation. I think the title of the whole webinar is very important. Pre-retirement things to think about. It's important to think about these things. When you're 5, 10 years from retirement. But it's also important to look at the plan and the features and how it's set up for you. Even if you're just in the plan or you have 20 years to go to retirement, this is something that you should look at on a regular basis. I use my daughter as an example all the time. She is out of school, she's living at home, and she probably vacations, nice vacations, twice a year with her roommates and stuff like that. And she'll spend hours planning her vacation, where they're going to go, what's a nice, inexpensive hotel, restaurants, sightseeing, all those types of things. And a lot of people will spend 5 minutes planning for retirement. Maybe it's when you first sign up. You check a few boxes, opt in for a few features, and that's it. This is something you should actually look at on a regular basis because if you think about it, retirement's going to be one long vacation, and you just want to make sure that you are doing the right things to prepare yourself for retirement. So I'm going to go through 4 simple steps. One, determine how much income that you're going to need in retirement compared to what you're going to have coming in the form of retirement income. And then if there's any deficiency, what are ways that you can close that gap? Whether it's the 457 plan or outside savings. I'll talk about some risks you need to think about. And then just, don't overcomplicate this. Keep it simple. It's some people, look at the plan and it becomes too complex with the investing and everything like that. It really is not, and we can help you with that again on our side. So first, what is the deferred comp plan? It's also known as a 457 plan. A lot of you may be familiar with 401k plans or 403bs. This also is a type of retirement plan. 401k plans are for private companies, like law firms or dental practices, medical practices. 403bs are typically for university and education organizations. 457 is basically for anyone who is a public employee who works for, in this case, New York State. Like a 401k and like a 403b, the simple part about this is that it's all done through payroll. You elect how much to have taken out of your paycheck each pay period. And the nice thing about that, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's not something where you have to go and make contributions to an account at the bank. It's done automatically and deducted automatically through payroll. There's a lot of flexibility. You can basically, change your contributions at any time. So I always tell people aim high. A lot of people will go in, dip their toe in the water at 1%, and then they never change it. I always say, if you could put away 5 or 10%, and if you get in that paycheck and it's a little bit tight, you can always lower it. But a lot of people will go in and they'll never increase their contribution. So like a 401k and like the other types of programs, you can elect to have money put away pre-tax or after-tax Roth. And I'll go through and explain both options. Use a simple example. Let's say you're earning $50,000 and you're going to put away, again, to keep the math simple, 10% a year. So over the year, the calendar year, you're going to put away $5,000 into the plan. On a pre-tax basis, you're getting a deduction for that contribution. So you're not paying tax on 50, you're actually paying tax on 45,000 because you're getting a deduction. It's lowering your taxable income. The money grows tax deferred. What I mean by that is wherever you have the money invested, you're not paying any tax on the growth. But at retirement or whenever you decide to pull the money out, because the money has never been taxed before, as you pull it out, whatever amount that is per year, that's taxable income to you. So that's one option. You could do pre-tax. The other option, and if you listen to a lot of the financial advisors or read the Wall Street Journal, a lot of people recommend doing the after-tax Roth. How that works is same example, you're making $50,000, you're going to put away 10% on an after-tax basis to the plan. You're not getting the deduction, so you're still taxed on the full 50. But here's the benefit. The money grows tax deferred, so whatever you contribute to the plan after tax, you're not paying any tax on the growth of that money wherever that it's invested. And the benefit is when you pull the money out at retirement, it's tax free. So for people who are getting, a fixed pension from the state, people who are getting Social Security, both of those are going to be taxable to you. The nice thing about this is why not create this bucket of money, this Roth account, where when you pull the money out at retirement, it is tax free. So again, it's not all or nothing. You could do pre-tax and no Roth. You could do Roth and no pre-tax. You could actually split it up. You could do 5% pre-tax, 5% Roth. And again, that's something that you're not locked into. You could change at any time. So if you're doing all pre-tax and you have a few years to go to retirement and you'd like, well, that Roth situation sounds like a good deal, you can actually change that at any time. And again, that last bullet, in both situations, the growth on your money is tax deferred. So getting into some of the questions, how much money are you going to need to live on? A lot of industry experts will say 70 to 80% of your final pay because maybe you're not commuting and you don't have, lunch at work or whatever your expenses are when you're working. Maybe you don't need 100% of that. I kind of disagree with that a little bit. I compare, what I spend on weekends versus, during the week. And I probably spend more on weekends than I'm doing during the week. And if you think about it, retirement's going to be one long weekend. And again, could you live on 75 or 70 to 80% of your current income? Next question is, well, where's the money going to come from? Talon had mentioned that NYSERS is going to be on. Part of that is going to be, or the biggest percentage of your retirement income is going to be from your state pension and from Social Security. That could, make up maybe 75% of your current income or your income at retirement. Where is that other 15% going to come from? That could come from, other savings. Maybe you have an IRA, but the deferred comp is a great option to help fill that gap. So again, what do you need? What will you have? And then what's the deficiency and how are you going to fill it? So one thing that I like to recommend that people do nearing retirement is determining on a monthly basis what your expenses are, and do it for a few months because sometimes, you'll have one big expense, your hot water heater goes or something. Try to get an average of what your monthly expenses are. And then, part of the homework is going to be, well, what's the retirement income going to be? So, find out what your state pension is going to be. Find out what your estimated Social Security is going to be. And this way, it'll give you a better idea of how much you're going to need with the expenses and what you have coming in and how can you fill that gap. So certain ways to fill the gap, and, I tell this to a lot of people who, just start enrolling in the plan is, well, right now, if you can only go in at a little amount, every time you get a raise, maybe, it's a 3 or a 5% raise, bump up that contribution by 1%. And by doing that, you really don't feel it in your paycheck because your raise is higher than the increase that you're putting into the plan. So all of a sudden, you're going from, maybe contributing 5% into the deferred comp, where at the end of 5 years, you're doing 10%, and you don't even feel it in your salary because your increases have been higher. When children leave home, turn those extra or the reduction in expenses into higher contributions. And the same thing with debt. If you've paid off your house, if you had a car loan that was $400, $500, $600 a month, and now you no longer have that, make those additional contributions to the plan. And it's that type of planning, the increased contribution, not so much the growth on where the investment is, that's really going to snowball your retirement account. So we do have a tool on our website. Our website, you can see there on the bottom, is nysdcp.com. You don't have to be, a participant to go in and use any of the tools that we have. But there's something called My Interactive Retirement Planner, and it's been recently updated. You can put in your expenses. You can put in your estimated Social Security. You could put in what your pension's going to be, and it'll give you an idea of the likelihood of you being able to live comfortably in retirement. So that's a nice tool that we have. Again, there's other tools on the website that again can help you out, whether it's a Roth pre-tax comparison. We have all the different funds on the website, but there's a lot of information. And we also do regular seminars on Social Security, seminars like this, seminars on what's happening in the market. All those are available at no charge to anyone who just wants to log in. So a little bit of homework, what you got to find out what your retirement income is going to be. So you can go to the state. You're going to have someone following me talking about that. I also suggest that everybody go to the government website, write this down, ssa.gov. I'm sure a lot of you have already done this, but create an account with Social Security. It's going to give you a history of all your income and what's been paid into Social Security. It'll also give you an estimate of what your Social Security benefit's going to be. It'll tell you when your maximum Social Security retirement age is going to be. For most people, if you're not collecting Social Security already, it's probably going to be 67. You could take Social Security as early as 62, but it's a reduced benefit. So if you could wait to 67, you're much better off. If you can actually defer to age 70, it's actually going to be higher than your maximum benefit at 67. But that's a little bit of homework to do there. So Talon was talking about this. Maybe you're capped out in a 403B. This is a separate plan, and we have the same separate limits. So every year the limits go up. Last year the limit for anyone under age 50 was 23,000. This has been increased for 2025 to 23,500. If you're above age 50, the government allows you to do an additional catch-up contribution of 7,500. So the 23,000 plus the 7,500 for somebody age 50, you could contribute up to 31,000. And brand new for this year, we never had this before, but for 2025, if you are between the ages of 60 and 63, it's the 23,500 plus an additional 11,250. And I think the rationale for this is that, a lot of people, maybe when they're starting work, their incomes are low, maybe they didn't contribute that much to the plan. As they get closer to retirement within that last 5 or 10 years, they realize, wow, I should really, max out or contribute more. The government allows people above age 50 and between that 60 and 63 category to do additional contributions. Additionally, the 457 plan has a special retirement catch-up that if you are within a few years of retirement, able to take your full benefit from your pension, they actually allow you to do double the 23,000 or 47,500. This is typically for people who have a lot of unused vacation and sick time. They find out they're going to retire in a few months and really don't want to take that as income and maybe defer it on a pre-tax basis. That's something that you can do in the 457 plan. So lastly, getting towards the end, what are the different risks that you need to think about? One is life expectancy. Are you going to outlive your retirement income? So, you know, my mom lived till she was 97, my pops to 95. Hopefully, I got those genes, and, I'll be into my 90s. Again, you need to prepare, that, you're going to not outlive your money. You also need to think about inflation risks. What's the cost of goods and services going to be 5, 10, 15 years from now when you retire? Healthcare costs has become a huge part of retirement planning, and also the possibility of preparing, taking care of a loved one, whether it's an adult child or your parents. Those are additional expenses you need to think about. So on average, men live to age 84. Life expectancy for women is a little bit higher, age 87. But a lot of times it just depends on, your genes. Again, I was fortunate that my mom lived to ripe age of 97. Again, hopefully, I got some of those genes and I'll have a long life. But again, another thing to think about is inflation. Inflation has historically been between 3 and 5%. So what the cost of things are going to be 10 years from now is going to be, higher than what it is today. But if you look at, what inflation was at 2 years ago, it was around 9%. You have to make sure your money is keeping up with inflation. And these are just some examples: the price of stamps, a gallon of milk, gasoline isn't that much higher than what was showing for 2019. I think I've seen it by me around $3, $3.05. But it could be something, just as simple as eggs, what the prices of eggs have gone up to. So some of the retirement income that you have coming in is going to be adjusted for inflation, but probably not as much as actual inflation is going up. So if you're collecting Social Security, I think this year it went up by about 3%. But if your pension and your Social Security is going up at small percentages, but your retirement expenses are going up at a higher rate, you may have a surplus currently, but that may be a deficit going down the road. So again, another one of those questions you need to think about or prepare for in retirement. So a few things with the 457 plan. The unique thing about a deferred comp is that when you are no longer working for your employer, regardless of what your age is, you can start taking distributions from the deferred comp. At some point, the government requires you to start pulling money out of any type of retirement plan. Those are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. You have to start that no later than age 73, unless you're still working. And I've seen, especially in the educational market, that a lot of people, will continue to work, even if it's on a part-time basis and still getting paid. If you work beyond age 73, you can actually defer that RMD, or that required minimum distribution. What are your options once you retire? You can actually pull the full amount out. We have very few people doing that. A lot of people will just take money out randomly as they need it. Maybe they're retired and they're going to take that trip to Europe or whatever it is. But I would say most people take some sort of systematic payments. And I talked about, figuring out what your retirement income is going to be, compare that to your expenses. So what I mean by that, let's say your expenses are 5,000 a month. Let's say your retirement income coming in with your pension, with Social Security, or just retirement savings is $4,000 a month. You could call us and say, you know what, I'd like $1,000 a month deposited into my checking account each and every month to cover that that deficiency. And again, all of this is flexible. You can start with periodic payments. Maybe Social Security kicks in and you're starting to get an extra $3,000 a month. Maybe you don't need those periodic payments, or maybe you don't need the same amount each month. You can just call us and turn that off. As I mentioned earlier, distributions from the Roth are tax-free after you've hit age 59 and a half, and after you've right in that first paragraph there, after you've been in the program or into the Roth program for 5 years. When you take distributions from the plan, there's a 20% mandatory withholdings. This is actually reduced if it's going to be periodic payments, reduced down to 10%. Here's an important point. Anyone who is a New York State resident, the first $20,000 from the deferred comp is actually state tax free. So a lot of people say, well, what should I take out each year? If you can, try to keep it under that $20,000 distribution, and you won't have it subject to state taxes. Again, if you move to a different state, and if you're living in New Jersey but you work in New York, and your primary residence is in New Jersey, you're going to be subject to that state's income tax. And once you retire, you don't have to take the money out. A lot of people actually like to consolidate their retirement assets. The deferred comp, New York State deferred comp plan, has 260,000 participants from Rochester, Albany, New York City, Montauk Point. We have $45 billion. So when we go to the different investment companies, we get the lowest possible fees. I apologize for that background noise. All of a sudden, my landscapers decided to come. You have convenient access to your money. And as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of unbiased educational seminars. Those are posted on the website. Again, things like Medicare, Social Security, what's happening in the market these days. And the other thing is you can move other retirement dollars into this plan. Our plan is one of the largest retirement plans in the country. I told you, the number of participants and the amount of assets. So a lot of times moving an old 401k or an old 403b will reduce the expenses on that account by consolidating it. The other thing is, one of the things, in the upper left there, keeping it simple, a lot of people just like to have all of their retirement accounts in one place, just to make it simpler to go to one place to see where all their money is. Last thing, and I'm finishing up here, one thing you want to do is make sure you review your beneficiaries. And Talon mentioned that there will be someone regarding or talking about estate planning. This is an important thing to do. Make sure you have a beneficiary. Make sure it's updated. Maybe you weren't married when you first got into the plan and you're married now and you want to change that. Make sure, go on and look at who you have designated as beneficiary. Make sure that's the person you want to receive the money. Review your asset allocation. A lot of people go in and maybe they start out and they're in the stable income because they don't want to lose a dollar, or they're not sure what to invest in. Again, an important thing is that you want to make sure that you're you know, money keeps up with inflation. So maybe even if you become a little bit, take on a little bit more risk to get a better return. And again, this brand new tool that we've had the tool for a while, but it's been a huge update to it where you can put in a lot of different expenses that my income retirement interactive retirement planner will show you if you're on target to hit retirement. Lastly, we have an app for the deferred comp. If you just go to the App Store, it's called My Retirement. You can download that. You can look at your account, you know, on a daily basis. If that's something you want to do, you can change your deferral percentage. You can change your investments. All of the tools that we have on our website, or all of the features or functionality of your account, is available on a simple app on your phone. Lastly, here's my information. I will follow this up with an email to Talon. And again, you could book an appointment with me. We can go over it one-on-one. But there is my phone number. We have AE Connect. Those are our account executives that are not in the field. They're on the phone, and you could talk to them directly. And you have our helpline. You know, I talked about taking distributions from the plan. One of the features that you can do, every time I see the helpline, I think of this, I should say it earlier on, but you could also take a loan from your account. The government allows you to take up to 1/2 of your account balance, up to $50,000 in the form of a loan. And you can pay that back over 5 years if it's just general purpose, or 15 years if you're using it for a principal residence. And the benefit of a loan over a distribution is that there's no tax on it. You're only borrowing the money, and when you pay that loan back, including interest, you're paying it back to yourself. It's going back to your account. So with that, I will end it and you know, see if there's any questions in the Q&A or in the chat. And are you switching to another? You are. So I will stay on then.
Yes, I was going to ask if you could do that because there are a couple of questions in the chat. I answered the ones in the Q&A and I answered some of the chat questions, but there's a few there that I would appreciate if you could
Yeah.
respond to as we move on to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Peter. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And again, you're going to a different, so I can stay on here and
Yes, you
answer
could,
questions.
yeah,
Great.
you could stop sharing your the screen, and then you can stay on and respond to the chat questions.
Great. I appreciate everybody's time today. And again, any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our next presenter is Christian Hawkinson from TIAA to talk about the TDA that you have available to you as a CUNY employee, and then the withdrawal options that are associated with that plan. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Dylan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
So far, so good. Happy Wednesday to you.
Yeah, you're at BMCC, but you have a TIAA logo behind you.
I do.
Is
Yeah,
that a
it's
fake background?
yeah, it looks like I'm in the office, right?
Yeah.
But yep, I'm on campus. I'm hardwired. I'm
Okay,
ready and ready to
good.
go.
Good. It's all yours.
I actually have an appointment at 10, so if I seem a little rushed, I apologize.
Okay,
I am going to jump right into it and
go ahead.
we'll keep on rocking and rolling from there. All right, let me see. Let's see if this works. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So as Taylor mentioned, my name is Christian Hawkinson. I am the financial consultant here at TIAA that works in correspondence with the CUNY system. And today we're going to go over the TDA, which is also known as a 403B. So through that, the process here, at least through the slides, we have eligibility, who can contribute, talking about investments and investment strategies, learning about retirement plan and investment advice, how that works, what your options are, you know, what that means to you, managing your TI account, and suggested next steps. So first and foremost, when it comes to the 403B, known as the Voluntary Savings Plan or tax-deferred annuity, it provides both pre-tax and after-tax or Roth contributions, right? We'll go into how that works later on in slides, but most important things to know is that we have a wide selection of investment options, personalized investment advice, and enhanced services and tools. So the nice benefit with TIAA is, hey, look, if you want to do it on your own, you can, right? Just go in, make the selections, and you have the investment options that are available to you, right? If you need someone to assist you or go through a process to see, hey, are we on track for saving enough, investing appropriately, you name it, of course, that's what I'm here for, right? You'll see on this slide at the bottom, there is a URL, which is tiaa.org/CUNY. You will see that URL probably 5 or 6 more times throughout the presentation. But once you go to it, you would scroll down and click on the most applicable position. And that's where you'll see the voluntary savings plan and actually look up some more information behind it. You know, what are the withdrawal options, loans, you know, other availability in terms of investments. So in that URL, it is all available to you. So who is eligible? So, you know, all CUNY employees, including full-time and part-time classified staff, can contribute to the plan. The participation in this plan is voluntary, so there is no mandate. You don't have to enroll and contribute to it. But if you want to add your own extra dollars from your paycheck into this plan, this is what it's there to do. So as soon as you start day one from your employment here at CUNY, you can start contributing, and contributions are not a dollar amount, but it is a percentage of your salary. So you can do, you know, a minimum of 1%, you can do 10%, 30%, whatever you'd like, and add that to the plan. And again, only your contributions. There's no employer contribution, right? It's just yours that are going into the plan. And again, we have both the pre-tax and the Roth options for contributions. So when we look at the tax-deferred annuity plan, I guess the question primarily is why, right? What are the benefits? What does that mean to you? I mean, the most important thing is that it builds more assets for your retirement, right? Having more as a balance and making sure that when you do retire, that you have the accessibility to either withdraw the funds or believe it or not, you could transform that into a lifetime payment, which is called an annuity if you wanted to as well. So it does provide a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want to do with withdrawing or annuitizing the funds. And as you can see here, also the investment growth potential and options that are available in the plan. So I like this slide because it shows the power of contributions into the plan. So in this case, the scenario is biweekly contributions, so every 2 weeks, of just $25 with, let's say, an average rate of return of 6%. In that case, 10 years from now, that $25 biweekly contribution could add up close to $9,000 in 10 years, $25,000 over the course of 20 years, and maybe even close to $53,000 over a 30-year period. So I really like the illustration of this slide because we're only talking $25. You know, if you were to do more than that, even if you were to do 25, right, that's still something that you can use for any emergencies. If you want to use it to enjoy retirement, right, like use it for vacation or other means, or again, transform that into a pension like some. It shows the compounding growth factor over time. And of course, with that balance, it can be used something for, I guess, the prior reasons mentioned, but, you know, anything else you can think of, that's really what it's there for. So these are the contribution maximums for 2025. For anyone under the age of 50, the maximum is $23,500 for the year for contributions. For anyone over the age of 50, it is $31,000. Like my friend Pete mentioned before, there is now that new catch-up provision. So anyone between the age of 60 and 63 can go up to $34,750 for contributions if you're within that age range. So pre-tax and Roth contributions, right? What do they mean? How does it work? I know Pete went over this earlier, but down the first column with pre-tax, once you contribute from your paycheck into the plan, it's going to lower your tax liability for the year, right? Now, the benefit of that is, sure, lowering tax liability for, in this case, 2025, having that grow tax deferred, meaning that it's not being taxed throughout growth on the way, but taxed when you are and when you will retire, right? So when you retire, take a withdrawal, that's the second area there that will be taxed later on. The idea of this is, of course, required minimum distribution. So when you turn 73, since that money has not been taxed, Uncle Sam's going to say, well, we want our fair share, and they'll take a percentage out of that in terms of the what's called the required minimum distributions, or RMDs. We will calculate that for you. You don't have to go and go through a chart, right? That's a little complex. We'll take care of that number for you and have it generated. And if you ever wanted to take a loan from the plan, which, believe it or not, you would pay back the principal and interest back into the plan. Interest does not go to us. It actually goes back to you. The loan option is available in that pre-tax, or at least for pre-tax contributions. So as you have probably already noticed, Roth, it's the opposite, right? And you contribute Roth to the plan, it's going to be taxed now. So you're not going to lower your taxability for, again, in this case, 2025. But after 5 years, that money becomes tax-free. And in retirement, when you take from it, you're not taxed later, right? No required minimum distributions apply because Uncle Sam already received his due, right? You already paid your taxes now as opposed to later. So that money could keep on growing and growing tax-free past that age, which is why some people like the idea of diversifying their tax buckets, as they say. The only big difference there at the bottom, as you'll see, is that loans are available for pre-tax contributions, but not for Roth, right? So if you want to have some sort of backup or something in case you need it, right, as a complete last case emergency, then the loan option is only available for the pre-tax areas. So in this case, is Roth right for you? If you believe that your income is going to be higher in retirement, or that your tax rates will be higher in retirement, and that could be a scenario. If you want, again, like I was mentioning prior, tax diversification of your retirement assets, of course, that would be there for you as well. Or if you are nearing retirement and you believe that you'll have more than what you would need to meet your income needs in retirement, Roth funds can be inherited without the tax implications, right? So if let's say your beneficiaries inherit the funds pre-tax, when they withdraw from it, they'll be taxed. With Roth, when they inherit it, because it's already been taxed, when they withdraw from it, it will not increase their taxable income, right? Of course, legally, we have to say that we do not provide any legal or, tax advice. So we always recommend to consult your legal or tax advisor based on, primarily, at least in terms of tax, anything deductible, if you have any other withholdings, if you have certain ways in which filing may be better for you on certain other tax advantages, they'll put that full picture together for you. Even wills, power of attorneys, estate planning, etc. That's where legal will come in as well, right? So always something to look forward and look into when it comes to those areas as well. So this is the math. This slide can be a little confusing, but I'm going to break it down. The tax savings, they have the Roth column, they have the pre-tax column, as you can see. For Roth or after-tax contributions, what they're trying to illustrate is, what if you have currently a 25% tax bracket, right? If you contribute after-tax or Roth, you're going to be taxed today. So that $3,000, which is what you'll contribute, you're not going to get any annual tax savings on that money, but the $3,000 that you put in will be the $3,000 that would grow tax-free over time, right? So those are the first 3 rows. Same thing for the pre-tax. The difference is the opposite, right? If you were to contribute $4,000, that's going to go in gross. If your tax rate is 25%, 25% of 4,000 is $1,000. So that's your annual tax savings in that scenario. So the effect on annual income would be 3,000 because that $1,000 is being deducted from the 4,000, right? So the second part of that really is based on what your tax bracket is now and what it is when you retire, right? And so the best way, I'm not going to get too deep into the numbers because it gets a little confusing with how it's shown, but the idea is if your income is here, right, when you're working, and let's say it's lower in retirement, pre-tax contributions will lower tax liability now. And sure, it would increase it later on because when you withdraw from it, you'll be taxed then. But I call that weighting the scales. So if you go and decrease and increase later, it still theoretically keeps both low, right? Where if your income is the opposite, if it's higher in retirement than what it is while you're working, Roth contributions won't lower your tax liability now, but it also won't push it higher on later if that is the case or scenario, right? The other side of it is we don't know how taxes will change in the future. You know, tax laws change over time. I mean, even for this year, December 31st, we have to make a decision with the federal government. But the bottom line is if you don't have any tax burden or don't have a preference, Roth contributions, you don't have to figure out what that tax picture will look like later because you've already been taxed today, right? But if taxes are killing you, then pre-tax contributions would help lower that for you, right? So that goes over the tax benefits. We have, of course, the enrolling in the plan. So before you enroll, of course, we need to figure out how much you want to contribute as a percentage of your gross salary. You can, of course, do the math and figure out what that means on a paycheck or biweekly basis. And also, if you want to have just pre-tax, have Roth, or you can do a combination of both pre-tax and Roth contributions, right? So again, through that URL, tiaa.org/CUNY, you can see exactly what those investment options look like by going through the website. To enroll, things that you will need, of course, your social security number. I imagine everyone here has that memorized. The second bullet point is, of course, if you have beneficiaries, which of course we always recommend to put on the plans, make sure you have their date of birth, address, and social security number if available. Believe it or not, the only thing that you need is their name and their relationship to you to add them as a beneficiary. But to avoid confusions, complications, always make sure to add more information if possible. And then if your beneficiary is a trust, of course, make sure you include the trust name, date established, type of trust, if it has a social or EIN, right? If it has a tax number, which it will, a tax number associated, that's all important. And again, investment selections are through the link. So once you go through the website and enroll in the 403B, that's the first step. That opens the bucket. And to pour water into the bucket, that's when you would give your HR director this salary reduction agreement. This is a sheet which I know it's hard to read. Will have your information like your name, college, employee ID, and then towards the bottom, if you can see right here with these 2 boxes, that's where you select the percentage for either pre-tax Roth or both that you want going into the plan. Keep in mind that once you start contributing, you can always stop, right? It's not like once you do, it's going to last forever. If you want to say, I want to add more, I want to lower it if things change with your expenses, or if you just need to stop for whatever reason, you always can. So that's how that works in terms of opening the account by enrollment. And of course, the sheet as well to add contributions into the plan. So again, the enrollment, you can go through the website, tiaa.org/CUNY. Through the process, once you click on the plan, before you click on the enrollment button, it will have a drop down that will pull up what's called that salary reduction agreement. And if not, of course, you can just type in that same URL just with the _SRA, and that'll pop up for you. And by all means, you have any issues online or you need some troubleshooting, we do have a connection here with TIAA and CUNY specifically. So that way on our end, we can help any CUNY participant through our back office. And that number is provided there at 866-277-7957. Available weekdays, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is set there. The investment strategy, right? Some people are okay with making their own decisions. Some people would rather someone assist them. To break things down as simply as I can, right? This is a range of, in terms of general buckets, the asset classes or types of investments that are available, right? At the very top, we have really our most conservative investment. At the bottom, we have the most aggressive. So I'll explain what that means in a second. The guaranteed fund that we have is our proprietary investment, which is TIAA Traditional. The beautiful part about TIAA is that back in 1918, Andrew Carnegie started the company because he saw that teachers and professors really only had a pension, right? Social Security didn't start until the 1930s. So that was really the only pension that was available, or a lifetime income that was available at that time. So we created one of the first pension-like supplements, which is called the annuity. And that guaranteed investment with that little asterisk next to it is our product that we created. So that investment gives you an interest rate that you can rely on, minimum guarantee, and the potential for a lifetime income later on. Underneath that is a money market fund. Any money market investment is any investment less than 1 year, right? Could be short-term CDs, savings, could be government investments. Fixed income, primarily those are bonds, right? Gives you some sort of stability and interest-bearing type of investment, right? Is the idea for that. Multi-asset is a combination of equities, real estate, and more fixed income type of investments. We'll get to that in a later slide. And of course, real estate and equities investments in the stock market or companies, right? So that's the idea of diversification, making sure we're not putting all of our money in one of these buckets, but spreading them out, having a balance based on how you feel about risk. So again, two options that we have. We have option A, which is it's called a life cycle fund. That's the multi-asset that I was stating prior. So you can choose an investment to move automatically over time, and I'll explain that further in the next slide. And then we have option B, which is, building your own portfolio. If you're comfortable making those investment choices, then again, you can. So what is a target date fund? A target date fund specifies the investment for a particular year, right? So as you'll see through all of these different pie charts, you'll see different years, 2020, 2035, 2060. So as you can imagine, those that are farther away from retirement, right? Those that are, let's say 2060, 2065, they're going to be more aggressive or more in the stock market because they're just starting off, right? Looking for growth. They still have a long, what's called a time horizon until retirement. And then, of course, like 2025, 2030, 2025 is this year, right? But 2030, 5 years away, there's more green. So less in the stock market, more in bonds. So less volatility and a little bit more security is the idea. But it will start to reallocate over time based on the year in place, right? So as an example, as 2065 comes closer and closer, the more green will automatically be put, or more fixed income will automatically be put over time through the portfolio manager of that fund. So the way I explain it, if you have you know, Emma Stone or you have it's Timothy Chalamet, right? We have like 2060, 2065 funds, right? And you have like Morgan Freeman or Meryl Streep, they're probably going to be closer on the side for the 2030 or 2035. But long story short, that's how that works, and that's what this illustrates. So the most important thing is it's not like you have to choose on your own or just choose a life cycle fund, right? That's what we're here for as financial consultants. We can go through a plan and just make sure, hey, are you saving enough? Again, are you investing appropriately? What other expertise can we provide in terms of your other planning, right? If you have, children that you're saving for college, you're looking to buy a home, if you're moving, making transitions, that's when we can start looking at where things lie and start to understand the priorities and maybe the more complex picture that you may have. Even if you don't have those other areas, we're just looking at retirement, looking at analytics, how they work, making sure you're on track. That's of course a benefit that we provide by being here for you. So just something to consider there, of course. In terms of distribution options, you can, of course, roll it over to an IRA. If you have another, let's say 401k, like an old 401k or 403b, you can roll over there as well, or vice versa, or you can roll it over into this plan, right? And you can leave it alone. It's not like you have to touch it, right? Even when you leave, you can still talk to someone like myself, go through analytics, planning, you name it, and at no additional cost. Take periodic distributions if you want $100 a month, if you want $10,000 a month, right? That's an option for you. The annuity or pension-like income, of course, like I mentioned prior, is an option, or taking a lump sum. If you want to take the full balance, if you wanted to, you could. If it's pre-tax, I'd be careful so you're not getting hit too terribly with taxes, but those are the options there for distribution for you. So like I mentioned, of course, we are here to help with in-person sessions and virtual sessions. So I'm primarily the in-person consultant, as Taylor was saying. I'm actually on BMCC campus now. But we do have virtual Zoom sessions, or we can meet over the phone. And again, talk about when you're going to retire, your investment goals, risk tolerance, you name it. You can take a look into that system by going to TIAA.org/retirement advisor. And if you want to go online and schedule a meeting with us, the other phone number, which I think is going to be in this next slide too, but the website, TIAA.org/schedule now, will pop up our names, mine, my colleagues, so that way you have a full range of calendars to look into and dive into in terms of scheduling. So next steps, like I mentioned, here's the number for you again. If you have, again, questions or even, problems with enrolling, the 7957 number is available. Again, weekdays, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That same sentence is below, also in Spanish. And again, we have the URL available for more information for you. So take charge of your retirement now, start saving today, and it is quick and it is easy. That is what we are here for. And I just wanted to thank everyone for their time and joining the presentation today.
Thank you, Christian. Can I ask you one quick question, because a couple of people asked it, and
Yes.
I kind of know the answer, but I didn't want to overstep my boundaries. But they're asking, can you transfer money from a pre-tax account to a Roth?
You can roll over from a pre-tax to a Roth. That is what's called a Roth conversion. The consideration is once it goes from pre-tax to Roth, you will be taxed now. So the usual strategy is not to do a large lump sum, because that could increase your tax liability by a lot within a given year. So usually, more often than not, those looking to go through that would do it and piecemeal it over time. So it keeps their tax liability low every year, but they're also still completing the task of going from a pre-tax to a Roth source.
Thank you. I know you have another appointment, so you have a hard stop, but I appreciate your time. And now they know how to get in touch with you, make an appointment with you. And if we didn't get to your question, then they can ask you directly when they meet with you.
Yeah, and I guess you have my email that you provided to them as well.
I'll give it to them. I'll give you your
Yeah.
email. I'll give your email to everyone.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions on the call, please shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay.
Thanks so much, Christian.
Thank you, Taylor. Always
Have a
appreciate it. I'll
great
talk to
day.
you soon. You too.
Okay,
All
bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay, our next presenter is Tamara Telesco from TIAA, and she is going to talk about estate planning. Hi, Tamara.
Sorry, I was on mute. How are you?
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. As always, let me just make this in slide format. Okay. My name, as Tom mentioned, is Tamara Telesco, and I'm a director of wealth planning strategies at TIAA. Today, I'm going to be discussing common estate planning considerations. I think when people hear the term estate planning, they automatically think of wills and trusts, but there are also many estate planning documents you should have while you are alive that will make your life easier. So today's presentation, I'm going to be discussing both of those. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this presentation has only an educational benefit. The information should not be relied on by you as tax or legal advice, and examples in this presentation are hypothetical and for illustrative purposes only. You should always consult with your own attorney or tax advisor before making any changes to your individual investment, financial plan, and or estate plan. The TIAA group of companies does not provide legal or tax advice. Okay, so our discussion today will first focus and take a look at estate planning documents that you should have during your lifetime, and then look at estate planning documents that you should have for the distribution of your assets at death. In planning for your lifetime, we'll discuss the documents you can put in place to protect yourself and your finances in the event you're disabled. We'll also discuss lifetime giving to both charitable and non-charitable beneficiaries. When discussing estate planning documents at death, we'll review wills and revocable trusts and how titling of your assets and beneficiary designations work with your plan. Finally, we'll briefly look at estate taxes and whether tax planning should be part of your estate plan if we have time. So let's get started. As all of us know, there may come a time in each of our lives when we're unable or unwilling to handle our personal or financial affairs due to a disability, whether that's mental or physical. Discussing this with loved ones, such as what care you would like to receive in the event of disability, who will provide the care, and the cost of such care, can be a difficult decision. If you were to become incapacitated, what would happen? There are a number of things to think about pertaining to both your medical care, medical wishes, and financial affairs. You'll also want to consider who will make decisions on your behalf if you become incapacitated. You can name one or more individuals to act on your behalf to make financial or healthcare decisions in the event you are unable to do so yourself. There are certain legal documents that you can sign that designate someone to make these decisions for you. When considering who you want to designate to handle your financial affairs, think through, first of all, their financial acumen. Would the person you designate know how to manage these assets or who to rely on to make such decisions? Their lifestyle. Do they have the time to ensure that assets are managed in the manner that you wish? And equally important, their geographic location. Will they be able to physically tend to any matters that need to be tended to? There are a couple of documents that your attorney will likely prepare for you as part of your estate plan that can provide some guidelines in the event of your incapacity. The first is a power of attorney for financial purposes. A durable power of attorney will authorize a named individual to act for you in most financial transactions as your attorney in fact. You can name one person, you can name two people, you can name three people in this capacity. You can have them act together, they must act together, or they can act separately. You can customize the power given to them to allow for maximum flexibility or limit the flexibility to certain events. And the example I always give is if you have ever bought a home or sold a condo and used a real estate agent, in all that paperwork that you signed before that real estate agent started working with you, there was probably a limited power of attorney given to him or her to act on your behalf for that one transaction. That's what a limited power of attorney can do. It can specify under what conditions or for what purpose that person can act. Powers of attorney will legally enable your attorney in fact to act on your behalf. However, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that some institutions have their own forms, which will need to be completed. So if you have a bank account at Citibank or Wells Fargo or Chase or PNC, I would recommend that if you have a power of attorney that your attorney drafted for you, you may, when you have time, go into that bank and ask if they will accept this. And then they'll have it on file so that if you become incapacitated, the person that you have named in that document to act on your behalf will be able to pay your bills and continue to do it. What I would be remiss in telling you is sometimes these institutions have their own power of attorney that they want you to sign and have on file with them. That also is a limited power of attorney because you're only giving the person that you name the right to act on their account. So it probably makes sense just to check and make sure that they'll accept your power of attorney or if they want you to sign one of their own. Now, what happens if you don't have a power of attorney? Your family members will probably have to petition the court to be appointed a conservator of your assets. And I always say the poster child for this action is Britney Spears. After a series of public incidents and concerns about her mental health, a California court placed Britney Spears under a conservatorship, which lasted 13 years, from 2008 to 2021. You probably all know the hoopla that surrounded it around 2021, because this conservatorship gave her father, Jamie, control over her, not only her finances, but her career decisions and her personal matters. And this can be very time consuming and in many cases costly, because then she had to go to court to say she was able to manage her own and prove that she was able to manage her own affairs to get her father taken off of the conservatorship. The other thing I hear often from attorneys is, well, make sure that the power of attorney isn't more than 10 years old because it may not be valid. Now, I have never, ever heard of a power of attorney being turned down for being old, right? An older copy. But I do agree with these attorneys in the respect that you should check it periodically to make sure that the person or people that you named 10 years ago or 5 years ago are still the people that you want to act in this capacity. And last but not least, whoever you name in this document, whether it's one or several individuals, make sure they have a copy of your power of attorney so that if you become incapacitated, they're not looking around trying to find that document. Okay, now let's turn to revocable trusts. A revocable trust.
Yeah, that looks good.
A revocable trust is a trust you establish during your lifetime. It's basically an alternative to a will. And while revocable trusts can provide for the transfer of assets at death, and we're going to get into that later on in the presentation, they can also provide for management of your assets during your lifetime. So the person that sets up a revocable trust is called a grantor. So if I set up a revocable trust for myself, I would be the trustee of my own trust. It would be titled Tamara Telesco, trustee of the Tamara Telesco Revocable Trust. The benefit during your lifetime is in this revocable trust, you name a successor to you that can step in. So I would name someone in case I become incapacitated. I didn't die. I became incapacitated. Someone could step in my shoes, act as my successor trustee, act as the trustee, step in my shoes, and pay my bills. It would be able to manage a brokerage account that I have titled in the name of the trust. Could, do repairs on a house that I have transferred into the trust. So it's important during your lifetime to have documents such as this so that your bills can be paid, maintenance can be maintained. Now let's talk about living wills and healthcare proxies. With a healthcare proxy, it's important to consider who will make medical or other healthcare decisions on your behalf in the event you are incapacitated and unable to make those decisions yourself. Some examples might be authorizing treatments or being admitted or discharged from a hospital. The person you appoint to make healthcare decisions on your behalf does not necessarily have to be the same person you appointed to make those financial decisions in your power of attorney. For example, if you have a friend or relative who has a medical background, that person may be your choice to carry out your healthcare wishes. It's important to appoint someone who you trust to carry out the wishes. And again, there's certain things you have to, look to when you're naming that person. What's their geographic location? Do they live close enough so to be present in an event of a medical emergency? And also their emotional ability. Think about it. You're giving them some kind of power over your medical treatment. So a healthcare proxy may also incorporate an advanced medical directive or living will. A directive is your written instruction to healthcare professionals as to the withholding of or withdrawal of certain types of medical treatment and as to desired treatments in the event you are unable to participate in the decision-making process at the time the treatment is rendered. And, this is an everyday occurrence now. If you go in for a procedure, you go in for, your annual physical, one of the questions either on the form or to the receptionist that you're dealing with is, do you have a living will and a healthcare proxy? But I wanted to just take a moment for you to realize how many years it took for us to get to this point. Many, many court cases were fought over the right over your own medical treatment. And two of the more landmark cases were Karen and Quinlan, which was a New Jersey case with Morristown Hospital. It was back in 1975 when Karen became comatose, could not, act on her own. Her family back in 1975, led by her father Joseph, sought to have her removed from a respirator, but the hospital and doctors refused because they felt it was their duty to give as much medical treatment as they could. And that led to a landmark case that was basically ruled on by the New Jersey Supreme Court in favor of the family, stating that there was no compelling interest of the state which could compel Karen to endure the unendurable. This decision was based on the right to privacy and the principle that the state's interest in preserving life did not outweigh the patient's right to refuse medical treatment. Now, this was back in 1975. Fast forward to the 90s, where you have the Terri Schiavo case. This issue is still being fought in the courts. And in the Terri Schiavo case, it was back in the 90s, as I said. It took 7 years of legal battles between her parents and her husband to eventually terminate her life. So, this everyday occurrence, I want you to realize how important it is and how beneficial it is to not only you, but to your beneficiaries or the people you're appointing, for them to know what your wishes are. So far we've been talking about making sure that you're all set if you become disabled. Now let's switch gears and talk about lifetime gifting to individuals. Many of you wish to benefit family, friends, or others by making lifetime gifts. Gifting can be a very powerful estate planning tool, allowing you to transfer some of your wealth to others during your lifetime. Quite frankly, I call this feel-good estate planning. You might find making lifetime gifts desirable for non-tax reasons, including seeing others enjoy the use of your gift now, assisting with the education or support of loved ones, or maybe even testing your beneficiary's ability to manage the assets given in preparation of an inheritance in the future. The federal transfer tax system combines tax-free amounts you can transfer during your lifetime or at your passing. You may give an unlimited amount to your U.S. citizen spouse. However, there are limits on the amount that can be transferred to a non-U.S. citizen spouse, which in 2025 is $190,000. This year, up to $19,000 or $38,000 if you have spouses that agreed to give the $19,000 each to one person, with no reporting required. This is called the annual gift you can make, and it goes up with inflation, but it only goes up with inflation in $1,000 increments. That's why you'll see it started a long time ago at $10,000, kept going up 11, 12, 13, until now it's $19,000. Gifts of more than $19,000 made to any one person will be considered a taxable gift. But don't worry, probably none of us will be subject to any tax when you make that gift, because in order for it to be subject to tax, it has to exceed the amount that you give to any one individual. Under today's laws, has to exceed $13,990,000. So the chances of you going over $19,000 to any one person making a taxable gift are that you'll never have to pay gift taxes on it, but you will have to report it. So let's just say you gave $119,000 to your niece for a down payment on a home in 1 year, this year. The first $19,000, that's the annual gift. You can give that to anyone, no consequences. But that additional 100,000 has to be reported on an IRS Form 709, which is a gift tax return, informational only. What will happen is your accountant or you will say, the form said, did you make any gifts this year? Taxable gifts this year? Yes. What was the amount? $100,000. And you file it with your regular tax return. Where it comes in is when you pass away. Then your executor files what's called a 706. That's an estate tax return. On that return, they'll have the value of your estate when you passed away. Next line said, did you make any taxable gifts? The answer is yes. How much? 100. It gets added back in to your estate. Now, people will say, well, why did I do that? Why do I make taxable gifts and there's no benefit? The benefit is you're getting the appreciation of that, besides the non-tax that I talked about. The tax benefits is you're getting the appreciation out of your estate onto your niece. She buys a home, it appreciates. Yeah, that's in the niece's estate. It's not in your estate. So there are benefits, again, with the exemption, federal exemption being so high. We're not as worried about the tax benefits as we are the non-tax benefits of doing that. So now you decided to give some assets away. What are the type of assets that you may want to give away? Again, as I mentioned, property that's likely to appreciate in value. Give that away. Have it grow in someone else's estate, not your own. Property with a low gift tax value and a high estate tax value. That's life insurance. When you gift a life insurance policy to someone, it's the cash value of the life insurance policy. They own it now. When you pass away, they're the beneficiary. They get the death benefit, which is usually substantially higher than the cash value. And income producing property may be a smart thing to do. If you give away, let's just say, Exxon stock that pays a dividend, and you're in a bracket high enough that you're paying taxes on that dividend, if you give it to your niece who maybe isn't in as high a bracket, she may be paying no taxes or very little taxes on that dividend. So now let's switch gears and talk about gifting to charity. You may gift an unlimited amount to qualified charitable organizations during your lifetime. I'm sure you know that. If you're charitably inclined, there are both taxable and non-taxable benefits to giving assets to charity. When thinking of making a charitable gift, you'll want to consider which organizations you want to benefit, what type of assets you'll give, when to make the gift, and how the gift should be made. With respect to the latter, there are a variety of ways in which gifts can be made. Obviously, the most common way is to simply, just give cash or securities to a charity. Your gift can have an immediate impact on the charity, and it's easy. In fact, if you're giving cash, it's as easy as writing a check or using your credit card. There are also more advanced ways to give to charity through the use of trusts or private foundations. There are basically two types of charitable trusts: charitable lead trusts and charitable remainder trusts. With a charitable lead trust, the charity receives an income stream for a certain period of time that you pick. You can make it 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. The charity will receive that income stream for whatever period of time that you designate in the trust. And then the remainder will either pass back to you or to a different beneficiary, your niece, children, whatever, friend. With a charitable remainder trust, the interests are flipped, and this one you're probably more familiar with. So the person that funds it is basically the beneficiary of the trust and receives an income stream during their lifetime, while the charity doesn't receive anything until you pass away. So whatever remains in the trust at the time of your passing will go to the charity that you've named, or charities. You can name more than one. Private foundations are typically considered for only very substantial gifts. And the reason is you're going to need an attorney to draw up the private foundation. And private foundations require income tax returns. They're called PF90s. And states sometimes, and in New York, requires tax returns to be filed every 3 years if you have a private foundation that's based here. So I know this chart looks busy, but I wanted you to understand that the amount of the charitable deduction that you receive from your gift depends on the type of assets you're donating and whether the charity that you're gifting to is a public charity or a private charity. So I'm only going to go over the first 2 lines here. But if you look at the first 2 types of gifts on this trust, the first is a gift of cash. Note that the cash gifts made to a public charity are deductible at full value, but only in the amount up to 60% of your adjusted gross income. On this chart, you'll see AGI throughout. AGI stands for adjusted gross income. So if it's given to a public charity, 60% of your adjusted gross income can be a deduction. If it's given to a private foundation, only up to 30% of your adjusted gross income is deductible. If we look at the second one, marketable securities held long term. If you hold a security, you bought Exxon and held it for a year or more, it is considered a long-term security. The benefit of that is that if you give that to charity, you are able to deduct up to the fair market value on the date of gift. So you have capital gains. Let's say you bought Exxon at $10 20 years ago, and now it's worth $100. And you give that stock to charity, a public charity, you can deduct $100. So the capital gains that you had in that disappear. And if you give it to a public charity, you can deduct up to 30% of your adjusted gross income. Whereas if you give that same appreciated Exxon stock to a private foundation, you can only deduct up to 20% of your adjusted gross income. Now, that's not the whole story, in that if in the event that you gave more than what these limits are, so you gave Exxon stock and you couldn't deduct the whole thing because of this 30% limitation on your adjusted gross income, the IRS actually allows you 5 additional years, they're called carryovers, to deduct the remaining or the excess deduction that you were not able to deduct in the year that you made the contribution. So you have to look at what your stage of life is and what are the best gifts to give during your lifetime. It may be more advantageous to give specific types of assets during one stage versus another. So I'm going to basically talk through this chart. So if you're under age 70 and a half, those low basis, long-term marketable securities are excellent, again, because you can deduct the full fair market value or carry forward if you can't deduct the whole thing. Cash is always king. It's easy. They get the immediate benefit. And other non-qualified assets. I've worked with people that have given away condos to charity, homes to charity, boats. So you can do that too, and each of them have certain limits on them. Once you turn age 70 and a half, you get another avenue. It is called a qualified charitable distribution, or QCD. You can make one directly from your IRA to qualified charities in the aggregate amount not to exceed $108,000 per year in 2025. So you'll see on this chart, I have 100, but it goes up with inflation every year. Now, the benefit of doing that is you only get a deduction for your charitable contributions if you itemize on your income tax return. And we have had a drastic reduction in what can be considered an itemized deduction. Your state and local taxes presently are capped at $10,000. You cannot deduct miscellaneous deductions. You cannot take casualty losses unless it's a national disaster. Interest is capped for mortgage interest at $750,000. So if you give to charity and you're not itemizing, you really don't get the benefit of that charitable deduction. Doing one of these QCDs is almost better to do if you're giving to charity, because while you don't get a deduction for the amount that is going directly to a charity from your IRA that you have designated, it's not included in your income. So it comes right off the top. So it's a very good thing to consider if you're charitably inclined and you aren't able to itemize under the present income tax laws. And then at death, if you have retirement plans that have built up income taxes in them, and Christian was talking about the importance of doing beneficiary designations, you can always name a charity as either a partial or full beneficiary on these plans, because charities don't pay income taxes. So they're going to get the full amount of whatever percentage or amount that you designate as a beneficiary on an income taxable plan. Whereas if you name individuals on it, they're going to have to pay income taxes when they receive the inheritance and take distributions. So at death, like non-qualified deferred comp plans, if you have those, retirement plans are all with built up income taxes are always a good source for naming charities as a beneficiary if you want to leave money to charities when you pass away. So we've been talking about, lifetime giving. Now let's turn to, planning considerations at your passing. So before you begin planning, you should take an inventory of your assets. Make sure you include not only your bank and investment accounts, but also any real estate, personal property, life insurance that you still own, or any other assets that you own. Once you have a clear idea of the value of your estate, you can start thinking about not only who you want to leave the assets to, but also the manner in which you do it. Things to think about before visiting an attorney are, obviously, who do you want to inherit your assets? How do you want them to inherit the assets? And when do you want them to inherit or have access to the assets? Can your beneficiaries responsibly manage an inheritance, or might you want to consider holding it in a trust for their benefit? How important is, let me just get that, how important is tax minimization for you? And who is going to administer your estate plan? That's your executor. Who is going to administer the estate plan? The type of planning that you implement will depend on the answers to these questions. So, one of the most overlooked aspects of an estate plan is the coordination of asset ownership with estate planning documents. It's so important for you to realize that the titling of your property will determine not only who receives it, but also whether it will be subject to probate. So if you have assets titled in your own name or as tenants in common, or that are community property assets, those will pass under the terms of your will. If you die without a will, those assets will be subject to the state laws of intestacy, and any assets passing either by will or intestacy will be subject to probate. Now, everybody wants to avoid probate. What's probate? Probate is the process when you pass away, you have named an executor in your will. The executor will have to take a copy of your death certificate, a copy of your will, and a listing of all of your assets to the surrogate's court or the court in your state that handles estates. In New York, it's a surrogate's court. In New Jersey, it's a surrogate's court. Connecticut, it's a surrogate's court. So in return, and what the judge wants to do, they'll take it to the judge, and what the judge wants to do is make sure you have a valid will. In return, what the judge will give to your executor are what are called letters testamentary. Letters testamentary are what allow your executor to change the title or the ownership of the assets in your estate from your name to the beneficiary's name. Doesn't sound like a big deal. The problem is you're not the only one that died. The judge has stacks and stacks and stacks of these to go through. During that period of time between when your executor presents your death certificate, will, and assets to the judge, and the judge returns to the executor or gives to the executor letters testamentary, your assets are frozen. So your beneficiaries do not have access to cash accounts to pay your bills, to keep the upkeep of your house. There's a lot of reasons. The market goes down. You have securities. They can't sell them. So it's not only, there's a little cost associated with probate. Some states charge, dollars per page of your will. Others just charge a flat fee. It's not so much the cost. To me, it's the delay and the problems that can solve. So, and there are solutions to this, but I want to just go through this. But that's the probate process that most people want to avoid. If you own things jointly, most married people own the bulk of their assets jointly with rights of survivor. This means that at the first spouse's death, the assets will automatically pass to the surviving spouse as a matter of law and avoid probate. Tenancy by the entirety is another form of joint ownership that's reserved only for married couples, and it's valid in, I think, about 16 states. If you put a payable on death, a POD, or a TOD on the account, so you have a bank account and it's in your sole name, but you put a beneficiary designation on it, that is a POD, payable on death. The person who you designate as your beneficiary on that will receive the bank account. The assets will not go through probate. A TOD is similar to a POD, except that the TOD provisions are used for stocks, mutual funds, and financial account holdings. Same thing. If you put a TOD on your brokerage account, when you pass away, the beneficiary that you've named in your TOD it will go directly to the beneficiary and will avoid probate. Also, certain assets pass by agreement or by contract. Assets that are owned by a trust, titled in the name of the trust, will pass per the terms of the trust. That goes to the revocable trust we were talking about earlier. Life insurance and retirement assets pass by beneficiary designation, except if you've named the estate. If you take nothing else out of this, make sure that your retirement accounts do not have a estate name, because you're taking an asset that could avoid probate by naming an individual or a charity or a trust and moving it back into your estate and subject to probate. So life insurance and retirement assets pass by beneficiary designation, and also it's important to coordinate the beneficiary designations with your estate plan. So what exactly, I should say, does a will do? Well, first of all, it indicates where your property goes after your death, whether that's to an individual, a trust, or charity. It names an executor to administer the will and describes his or her powers and compensation. It can designate a guardian for your minor children if a child's parent doesn't survive. Designates which spouse is presumed to have survived if you die simultaneously. It provides for federal and estate tax planning. It is considered a public document. I know when Jacqueline Kennedy passed away, I went down to the surrogate's court, and this is a true story, and I got a copy of her will because it is and was a public document. When James Gandolfini died, I went down to the surrogate's court. I have a copy of his will. When Philip Seymour Hoffman died, why these people have wills, I'm not quite sure, but they are public documents. I was able to go down to the surrogate's court, New York City, and get copies of each of their documents. So the will is a public document that anyone has access to. There are several things that a will does not do. It does not override retirement account beneficiary designations, annuity account beneficiary designations, or life insurance policy beneficiary designations. So you all could name me in your will, but name your sibling or charities or whatever in your retirement accounts. I would receive none of those retirement accounts. So now let's go to what a revocable trust does. It provides for the distributions of your assets at your passing. As I mentioned earlier, it is a will substitute. So unlike assets passing by will, any assets that you have titled in the name of your revocable trust during your lifetime also avoids probate at your death. And it really makes for a much quicker disposition of the assets when someone passes away. When you transfer assets to a revocable trust, the assets are still yours. And I put that in air quotes. You maintain complete control over the trust and any assets held in the trust because you're the trustee of your own trust. You can add assets to it. You can withdraw assets from the trust as you wish. You can amend it. You can revoke it. Typically, a revocable trust does not require a separate income tax return. You use your own income tax Social Security number, and assets held in the trust are still included in your gross estate for estate tax purposes. The real benefit of doing a revocable trust during your lifetime is the incapacity issue. You have somebody, and at death, it's the avoidance of probate. But the trustee can only act on the assets that you have transferred into that trust during your lifetime. So it's very important to coordinate the beneficiary designations on your retirement plans with your estate planning objectives. Just as there are certain rules with respect to when you're allowed to take money out of your retirement plans, there are also rules for your beneficiaries following your death. And just as you have to pay income taxes on those withdrawals from your traditional pre-tax retirement accounts, your beneficiaries do too. And many of you know, if a spouse is the beneficiary of a retirement account, they can roll it over. There's several options. The one that would be the most beneficial from leaving it over the lifetime is the surviving spouse would roll over the deceased spouse beneficiary IRA into a spousal IRA and take RMDs over his or her lifetime. If a non-spouse is the beneficiary of an IRA, unless they're considered an eligible designated beneficiary, they will have to deplete that IRA within 10 years. So, should tax planning be part of your estate plan? And I went over this very, very briefly. In 2025, the federal estate tax exemption is $13,990,000. What that means is until you have that amount of assets in your estate will not be subject to federal estate taxes. There's a bill in the House bill just passed, H.R. 1. From an estate tax point of view, it is saying that, or what they're recommending is that the federal exemption will go up to $15 million and it will be made permanent. It will go up with inflation after that. And what I mean by that is, Christian kind of alluded to that in his presentation. The larger exemption this year, the $13,990,000, is basically scheduled to sunset this year and revert back to basically half of where it is today. If this HR bill goes through, now it's now in the Senate, that would be made permanent. So the sunsetting of that federal exemption would not occur. And in fact, the federal exemption would go up. But because the exemptions are so large, there's really not a lot of tax planning from an estate point of view, but there may be in states. So the ones in dark blue here have an estate plan. So Washington, Oregon, New York, Vermont, Illinois, Minnesota, Massachusetts, the dark blue all have estate taxes. So when you're planning your estate, you may have to, take that into consideration. The ones in light blue have an inheritance tax, and there's Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Nebraska. The difference is with an estate tax, the tax is imposed on the value of your estate when you pass away. An inheritance tax is actually imposed on the person that is inheriting and their relationship to the deceased. So it's a totally different way of looking at death taxes. And goodness, I hope no one lives in Maryland where there is both an estate tax and an inheritance tax. So thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, Tamara. We have a couple of minutes and I have some questions in the Q&A. So how about if I just read it out loud?
Yep.
Can real estate with joint tenancy with rights to survivorship be put under a trust?
Yeah, actually, I was talking about revocable trusts individually, but you can have a joint revocable trust. Yes, you can do that. And then
Okay.
transfer your joint assets to a joint revocable trust. Yep,
Does a revocable trust protect assets from existing divorce judgments in New York State?
does not. It doesn't protect it in any state.
Okay. As in settlement agreements, that was just an example. Okay, just to confirm, both a POD and a TOD do not go to probate.
Correct. As long as you don't name your estate. If you name an individual as your POD or a TOD, and I didn't know how much time. I apologize. I didn't mean to be rushing through it. You can get
That's
those
fine.
at any bank. You can get those at any bank. So when you're going in to check on your power of attorney, for example, just ask for a TOD or a POD form, and they'll give it to you, and you can do it right there.
Okay, does anybody want to unmute themselves and ask a question directly? This is your time to do it. No?
I will just add one thing, and
Okay.
you cannot transfer or should not transfer retirement assets, because I know most of you have a lot of retirement assets, to a revocable trust. You can't retitle your retirement assets to a revocable trust. They already avoid probate, right? If you have a beneficiary designation, they're already going to avoid probate. The reason you can't is it would be considered a distribution and you would have to pay income taxes on it. So it would never make sense to do that. But I get that question a lot too.
Okay. It seems as though there aren't any more questions.
Perfect, thank you.
I believe I put your email address in the or maybe I didn't. I'll put your email address in the can I meet with someone in TIAA about estates? So that's a really good question. What kind of access do our employees have to estate experts at TIAA, such as
Well,
yourself?
basically, if you have an advisor, you can ask the advisor and we can meet with them. If you don't have an advisor, email me and, we'll basically work through whatever questions that you do have. More than happy to help.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. If there
Anytime.
are-
It was my pleasure.
yeah, it was our pleasure too. And I think that's it. So, thank you for your time. And I'm hoping that my friend Frank Brown is on.
Yes, I'm here, Talon.
You're there. Hey, Frank,
Hi,
how
good
are
morning.
you?
We're doing good. How are you?
Frank, I was
Oh
going
my
to start
gosh.
doing Dunnies or something here.
I know. I get so nervous when the next person is up, and okay, now I see him on the.
I can leave to if
No, no, no,
if anybody wants to
no,
see
no,
the
no.
bunnies. Yeah.
Or maybe worse, I'd start singing.
Let me
Take
make you a
care. Nice
co-host.
meeting.
Thanks,
Take
Tamara.
care. It's my pleasure. Everyone.
Bye. Okay, so last but not least, my friend Frank Brown from Nicers. How are you today?
We are doing well, Talon. How are you?
I'm great. You're up. I mean, it's 2 minutes early, but we're ready to go. So I made you a co-host. You can share your screen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Talon. Appreciate it. And then of course, I will stick around after the presentation if anyone has any questions. It's not a problem. So I'll let me know, Talon, if you can see my PowerPoint screen.
Yes, we could see it.
Okay, great. So I'll get started. Good morning to everyone. It's good to be here. So my name is Frank. I'm one of the deputy directors in the Client Services Division, manager of the Pension Outreach Program, and I'm here to talk about the road to your NYCERS retirement for Tier 4 and Tier 6 membership. So I will get through this presentation as quickly and as thoroughly as possible so that we can leave enough time for a Q&A session. a really big and special thank you to Talon for putting this event together and always working with NYCERS, especially the Pension Outreach Program team, to getting this information out to her employees throughout CUNY. She does a really good job. Can't say enough about Talon. Enough of trying to embarrass Talon a little
Can I
bit.
just say I didn't pay you to say that? I just
Yeah,
want to,
no,
I just
yeah,
want to make
not on
that clear.
commission. I'm not on commission. So
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Talon. Let's talk about Tier 4 and Tier 6 membership. One of the key notes that we want to make sure we understand about NYCERS membership is that your account as a member of NYCERS, regardless if you're a Tier 4 or Tier 6 member, is that your NYCERS account is a defined benefit plan. Okay, so all of the benefits that you have access to and possibly receive as an account of your NYCERS membership, all of those benefits are defined in law and protected by the New York State Constitution. Okay. Now, throughout this presentation, the theme that determines the dollar amount of your lifetime pension benefit when you're eligible to collect, what determines the dollar amount of your pension is two key factors. That's total years of NYCERS membership, or also commonly known as credited service. We'll talk about that throughout the presentation. So how long you are a member of the NYCERS retirement system determines the dollar amount of your pension and other benefits. Your final average salary is another key factor that will determine how much money you get for your lifetime pension or other benefits as well. So an average of your salary, how long you are a member of NYCERS, that's what's going to determine how much money you get for your lifetime pension from NYCERS. Okay. We'll talk about contributions, but contributions does not determine the dollar amount of your future lifetime pension benefit. Okay, your contributions does not play a factor. Okay, contributions are a cost to have access to these benefits, but it doesn't apply to the dollar amount of your pension in the future. Okay, conditions of the stock market also does not play a factor to your pension as well. All right, so whether it's high, riding high, or it's on its lows, the conditions of the stock market does not play a factor to your pension. Other benefits that we will discuss, other than the lifetime benefit you receive in the future, loans, disability, death benefits, also specified in law. All right, so this is a presentation on Tier 4 and Tier 6 membership. So what determines your tier is the day you established your NYCERS membership. Okay, so your NYCERS membership date determines your tier, not your city start date. All right, so if your NYCERS membership date falls between July 27th, 1976 and March 31st, 2012, you are considered a Tier 4 member. If your NYCERS membership date is on or after April 1st, 2012, you are considered a Tier 6 member. All right. Now, there are different retirement plans under Tier 4 and Tier 6. We're going to review some of those retirement plans now. All right. So just knowing your tier does not give you the full story of your NYCERS pension account. Right. So knowing your tier is important, but also knowing your retirement plan as well, the plan that you are participating in. That is also important. So let's start off with Tier 4 membership. And the basic retirement plan under Tier 4 is called 62.5. All right, so this was the original Tier 4 retirement plan. Anyone that established their NYCERS membership between July of 1976 and June of 1995, if you establish your NYCERS membership between those two dates, and you did not elect participation of the 55-25 retirement plan, which we'll talk about in a few moments, you are participating in the 62.5 retirement plan. All right. And just to make a note, Talon, if you want to jump in at any time, if there's any questions in the chat, something that's pertinent, please feel free to jump in. We could pause and I can answer questions as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Participation in the 62.5 retirement plan. You pay basic member contributions through payroll deductions. You're paying those contributions up to 3% of your gross wages, and you're making those contributions for 10 years of NYCERS membership. Once you have 10 years of NYCERS membership, you are no longer required to make those basic member contributions. Now, there's an early retirement plan called Tier Equity, right? So you can apply for retirement only under the 62.5 retirement plan. You can apply for retirement early, called Tier Equity. If you collect a pension under Tier Equity, there is a reduction factor applied, right? So the calculation of your benefit under Tier Equity is applied, and that reduction is permanent, right? So that reduction under Tier Equity does not go away at the age of 62 or any time thereafter. So we have an early retirement plan called Tier Equity. We also have vesting provisions. So if you decide to leave city service before the age of 62, and you have at least 5 years of NYCERS membership, NYCERS will go ahead and freeze your pension, right? And then NYCERS will wait until you reach the age of 62, and then you can collect your benefit unreduced. So no reduction applied when your pension is vested. Right? So you leave city service at any age, you vest your pension, NYCERS will wait until age 62, and then you collect your full benefit without reduction. And of course, that benefit will be based on total years of credited service as a member of NYCERS and your final average salary. Okay, so that's the 62.5 retirement plan. Let's move on to the 55.25 retirement plan. This retirement plan was created under the laws of Chapter 96. This was eligible to anyone who was in a NYCERS eligible job title, right, on June 28th, 1995, or you were a member of NYCERS on June 28th, 1995. So either you were a member or you were working in a job title that you were able to join NYCERS. So either or. If you fall under one of those two criteria, you were eligible to join and participate in the 55.25 retirement plan. There was a 90-day window to opt in. If you did not join, you would have remained in the 62.5 retirement plan. So 55.25, you're eligible for the lifetime pension benefit at the age of 55, and you must have 25 years of NYCERS membership. So you must have both in order to collect that benefit once you leave city service. Under the 55.25 retirement plan, you pay basic member contributions equal to 3% of your gross wages for 10 years. There's an additional member contribution as well. You pay that up to 30 years of NYCERS membership or up until the day you leave city service, whichever comes first. Right now, that additional member contribution, the rate is at 1.85% of your gross wages. So right now, 1.85% each pay period of your gross wages. Now, under the 55.25 retirement plan, there are no vesting provisions. Okay, so for anyone who's participating in 55.25, you want to pay close attention, right? No vesting provisions. So if you leave city service and you do not have both the age of 55 and 25 years of NYCERS membership, if you don't have both, you must wait until the age of 62 to collect your benefit. All right, so if you leave city service and you're age 55, for example, and you have 24 years of NYCERS membership, right? You're almost there. You leave city service. You have to wait all the way until 62 to collect your benefit. All right, so 55.25 retirement plan does not have a vesting provision. If you leave and you don't have both the service and the age, you're waiting until the age of 62. All right, so you want to make a note of that if you're in a 55-25 retirement plan. All right, let's move on and we'll talk about the third retirement plan under Tier 4, second plan under the laws of Chapter 96, and that's the 57-5 retirement plan. All right, so this plan was available to anyone new to city service and then subsequently established their NYSERS membership between June 29th, 1995 and March 31st, 2012. Now, under the 57-5 retirement plan, you're eligible to retire at the age of 57, minimum 5 years of NYSERS membership. Right? And this plan does not have an early retirement provision. Right? So if you're participating in 57-5, you cannot collect the benefit before the age of 57.
Can I just chime in for a second and
Of course,
remind
Tyler.
everybody, Frank?
Absolutely.
You know, even though there are these plans that let you receive a pension with 5 years of service, in order to get retiree health benefits, the New York City Office of Labor Relations still requires a minimum of 10 years of service for retiree
Absolutely.
health. I just want to point that
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely, and that is a very important distinction. So I'm glad you pointed it out, Talon. So yeah, you can be eligible for a NYSERS pension after 5 years, but it's commonly known that for retiree health benefits, you need 10 years of credited service as a member of NYSERS. So very important to point out. Thank you. So yeah, so 57.5, right? You can collect the pension after 5 years, age 57. But this plan does have vesting provisions. So anyone that leaves city service before the age of 57, you can freeze your pension and your benefit will be payable to you at the age of 57. So, for NYSERS membership, generally, the minimum requirement is 5 years of credited service, Tier 4, Tier 6. We'll talk about Tier 6 in a few moments. Minimum is 5 for a lifetime pension benefit from NYSERS. But if you are interested in retiree health benefits, you do need 10 years of NYSERS membership. All right, a few notes about Chapter 96. So we discussed, right, under the 55-25 and 57-5 retirement plan, you are paying additional member contributions, right? Which is right now, it's at 1.85% of your gross wages every pay period up until 30 years of NYSERS membership, or you decide to leave city service, whichever comes first, right? Now, those contributions can be refunded to you if you are on payroll up until the age of 62 or any time thereafter. Okay, so the additional member contributions for the 55-25 or 57-5 plan, you get half of those contributions back if you are on payroll at the age of up until the age of 62 or any time thereafter. You get a refund of those additional member contributions at 50%. So that's important to note for some of us that are participating in the Chapter 96. So 55-25, 57-5. If you leave city service at 61 and retire, 61 or 60 or 59, you do not get the refund of the additional member contributions. You have to be on payroll at the age of 62 or your 62nd birthday. And then you retire, then you get a refund of the additional contributions at 50%. Now, we also have physically taxing provisions. So for anyone that may be participating in a job title that is deemed physically taxing, there is a separate early retirement provision. Physically taxing job titles, which are deemed physically taxing by the New York City Office of Labor Relations, NYSERS, does not determine these job titles. But if you are in a job title deemed physically taxing, you can retire as early as age 50 if you have 25 years of that physically taxing service. Okay. If you are participating in this physically taxing provision, there is a third deduction you are required to pay. That third deduction, the rate is at 1.98% of your gross wages. You pay that up until 30 years, or up until the day you leave city service. So we have physically taxing for Chapter 96 members. Now, if you retire, right, in the 55-25 retirement plan for physically taxing, if you have 25 or more years of physically taxing service and you retire after the age of 55, you also get back 50% of those deductions you made while you were on payroll. Right? So that's for a 55-25 retirement plan. And if you are in a physically taxing job title participating in the 57-5 retirement plan, if you retire after the age of 57 with 25 or more years of physically taxing service, you get a refund of those deductions as well at 50%. All right, so if anyone has any questions about that, please make a note and we can go into detail during the question and answer session. Now let's move on to Tier 6 membership. So this is for anyone that established their NYSERS membership for the first time on or after April 1st, 2012. Now, there's only one retirement plan that we will discuss under Tier 6. That's called the 63-5 retirement plan. And you're eligible for that lifetime pension benefit at the age of 63, and you only need a minimum of 5 years of NYSERS membership. Now, under the 63-5 retirement plan, we do have an early retirement provision as well, similar to the 62-5 retirement plan under Tier 4. But it does work the same way, or I should say it works similar. If you utilize this early retirement provision under Tier 6, there is a reduction factor to your pension, right? So your pension goes down because you are collecting a pension earlier than the age of 63. So there is an early retirement provision. It reduces your pension permanently. All right. Now, you can also vest your pension as well. Right? So if you leave city service before the age of 63 and you have at least 5 years of NYSERS membership, you are entitled to that unreduced lifetime pension when you reach the age of 63. All right, now let's talk about contributions for Tier 6. Right? Tier 6 membership. You are making basic contributions through payroll, right? From the day you join NYSERS and every pay period up until you leave city service. So for as long as you are on payroll, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, regardless of how long you are on active payroll as a member of NYSERS, every pay period you are making a contribution. All right, so all years of service, you're making a contribution into your NYSERS account. Okay, so it does not stop. Now, contribution rates for Tier 6 vary. It varies based on your salary or your wages earned during a plan year. All right, so for Tier 6 membership, the minimum contribution rate is 3% of your gross wages. As you can see, for anyone who's listening through audio, that rate increases depending on your salary. The maximum contribution rate is 6% of your wages earned. Now, for Tier 6 membership, each and every plan year, each year, NYSERS will review your salary earned or your wages earned during that plan year, and your contribution rate will be established based on your wages. All right, so as a Tier 6 member, you're not picking and choosing your contribution rate, but your salary will determine the contribution rate that you pay each and every plan year. Right now, once your contribution rate has been established for Tier 6 members, once your rate has been established, it does not change in the middle of the year. Right. So if you receive a pay increase, right, a pay increase, your contribution rate stays exactly the same. Right. Pay increase or salary decrease, doesn't matter. It'll stay exactly the same. And then at the beginning of the following year, the same process will happen. NYCERS will review your salary and your contribution rate will be determined. All right, so that is for Tier 6 contributions. Now, let's move on. That was for Tier 6. Let's move on and discuss the first key factor that will determine how much money you get at retirement. First key factor, that's called service credit. Right. So with NYCERS membership, the more service credit you have, the more money you get for your pension. All right. So that's the general rule. The majority of your service credit is called membership service. All right. Membership service is for every hour that you are paid by CUNY or any other employer within the city of New York. You are accruing that membership service. So every hour that you're paid. Right. In order to receive 1 year of membership service, you must have 1,827 hours of paid time. That is based on a 35-hour work week. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to accruing membership service, overtime does not count. Right. So once you've exceeded your hours paid for that week, any additional hours worked and compensated does not count towards the calculation of your future pension. So overtime does not count. All right. We also have an item called buyback. Right. So some of us may be familiar with this term. Buyback is for anyone that may have rendered public service within New York State prior to joining NYCERS. Okay, so that time could include Summer Youth Employment Program, right? Summer Youth Employment Program, it's possible you can purchase that time and it can count towards your future lifetime pension benefit. When I went to college, I went to a CUNY college, right? CUNY or SUNY colleges. At the same time, you are attending as a student if you were participating in a college aid program, college aid employment program, and you were working directly for that college, CUNY or SUNY, it's possible you can purchase that time as well and buy back. That would count towards your future pension. Any other employment, public employment rendered within New York State, you can buy back that time. It counts towards the calculation of your benefit. Okay? If you're not sure if the time counts or can be purchased or if it's eligible, submit the buyback application. NYCERS will review it for you. You will be notified if it's eligible to purchase or not. So when in doubt, apply. All right. Now, the calculation for buyback, because there is a cost, of course, the cost for buyback will be based on the salary you earned during that time period. All right. So NYCERS will not use your current salary to calculate the balance of a buyback. All right. So the time that the salary that you earned back then will be used to calculate the cost for a buyback. Now, if you're interested in a buyback, right, the longer you wait, the more expensive it could cost you, right? There is an interest component to the cost, 5% compounded annually between the time period you were employed up until the day you submit that buyback application. Excuse me. right? So the longer you wait, the more expensive it could be because of the interest component. So you're interested and you want to save on cost, applying for a buyback sooner rather than later would be beneficial. Now, for anyone that may have served in the armed forces prior to joining NYSERS or even after you've established your NYSERS membership, we have a military buyback program. You can submit, it's on our website, brochures for buyback and military buyback. You can submit form number 244. It's on our website, submit it. You also will provide a copy of a DD 214, discharge papers, and NYSERS will go ahead and investigate and calculate the cost for that military service as well. All right. Now, once the service and salary has been verified, a cost letter will be provided to you for that buyback. Multiple ways you can pay off a buyback balance, right? Lump sum payment, check or money order made out to NYSERS, debit card or credit card transactions online. You can utilize payroll deductions to pay off a buyback balance, or if you have a tax deferred annuity account, like a 457, 403B, 401k, traditional IRA accounts, you can utilize those funds to pay for a buyback balance. All right. Now, before we move on, just a quick note or two about buyback, right? A buyback transaction does not change your NYSERS membership date. Right? So for anyone that's interested in buyback in the near future, or maybe you've completed a buyback transaction previously, please make a note that a buyback does not change your NYSERS membership date. Right? A buyback transaction does not change your tier or your retirement plan. Right? So none of that is changing with a buyback. Right? Now, what will change for a buyback is your total credited service, and subsequently will increase the dollar amount of your lifetime pension benefit. So that is the main incentive for a buyback transaction. All right. Leave without pay, right? Any time spent off payroll does not count towards your pension, right? Any unpaid periods, right? Any time spent off of payroll, also you will not be able to buy back that time. So not eligible to be purchased. All right. So we also have transactions called a transfer or reinstatement. This is for any person that may have had a previous membership with a public pension system. Right. So, in addition to NYSERS, there's other retirement systems within the state of New York. There's Board of Education, Teachers Retirement, Police, Firefighters. That's with the City of New York, State of New York. There's the New York State and Local Employees Retirement System. Right. So if anyone had a previous membership, right, before your current account with NYSERS, you could utilize that previous membership to enhance your current NYSERS account. Okay, so a transfer transaction or a reinstatement of a previous membership could possibly change your tier or your retirement plan. So it does work a little bit differently from a buyback transaction. All right, so if you find yourself leaving city service before you're eligible to retire, you do have some options. First option, we've talked about vesting, right? So whether you are a tier 4 or tier 6 member, if you have 5 or more years of NYSERS membership, you can vest your pension and you're guaranteed a benefit in the future. So tier 4 and tier 6 members. We have refunds. right? So you can get a refund of your contributions, right? It's possible you can get a refund of contributions if you have less than 10 years, and you leave city service, you can get a refund of your contributions. You get back the principal dollar amount you made through payroll deductions, plus the interest that accrued in your account as well. Right? We also have transfers, right? So if you are eligible for a different public pension system within New York State, you can move your service credit and your money to that new system. Right? So there is not any scenario where you're losing out on any money with NYCERS. You're either getting a lifetime pension in the future, or you can get back your contributions, the principal plus the interest. All right, let's quickly review some other benefits of NYCERS membership we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. We have loans with NYCERS. Some of us may be familiar with this transaction. NYCERS loans is by far the largest transaction we have with the NYCERS retirement system. The majority of the population, majority of members, tier 4 and tier 6, they utilize this benefit with their NYCERS account. With NYCERS loans, you can use these loans to finance different aspects of your life, right? If you're purchasing a home, you're traveling, or you need to, like, other expenses, right? Within your life, you have access to these loans as a member of NYCERS. Right? Now, you can borrow up to 75% of what is in your total account balance. So the higher your contribution account, the more money you can borrow. Now, these NYCERS loans works very similar to other loan institutions within the United States. Right? So some of us, I know I'm familiar, some of us may be familiar with college loans, right? You take out a loan to pay college tuition, works similar. Car loans, bank loans, mortgages, you receive a distribution and you pay back that distribution in installments. So it works exactly the same with NYCERS. Right? You can take out one loan every 12 months, right? Please understand there are no emergency loans. So you cannot come back 3 or 4 months after and ask for a new loan. You're only permitted one loan every 12 months. Tier 4 and tier 6 members. Right? You must be on active payroll when you apply for a loan. And the interest on a NYCERS loan is 6.2%. Now, when you take out a loan and a loan is issued to you, it is not coming from your own account, right? It's coming from a different fund. So you're not paying yourself back. So that 6.2% interest is not going back into your account, okay? Now, NYCERS loans does not affect your credit rating, right? And a minimum loan you can take out is at $1,000. So that's the minimum loan you can apply for. All right. We also have disability protection with NYCERS membership. So if you sustain an injury or an illness that prevents you from performing your job duties, you can apply for a disability pension benefit. Now, if your disability application is approved, you receive that disability benefit for the rest of your life, regardless of your age. So we have disability protection. We also have death benefits, whereas you can designate beneficiaries under your account, right? You can designate any person you want. That could be a spouse, family member, friend, work colleague. You can change and manage the designations at any given time, and you can designate as many people as you want. In the event of your death, your designated beneficiaries would receive a one-time lump sum death benefit. So if that death occurs prior to retirement. All right. So let's move on and quickly talk about some of the items of the retirement process. Right. So if you're thinking about retirement in the near future, or maybe you know someone who's thinking about retirement, right? The first step in the process, you will have to work with your personnel department, human resources, administration, and you'll need to coordinate your last day on payroll with them. So you need to coordinate with that department or that unit. Now, once you have your last day on payroll, you can reach out to NYCERS and we can help you file your retirement application electronically online. Now, when you file your NYCERS retirement application, the New York City Office of Labor Relations is notified of your retirement filing. New York City Office of Labor Relations, they are in charge of your retiree health benefits. And as Talon mentioned earlier, as a reminder, you are entitled to retiree health benefits if you have 10 or more years of credited service as a member of NYCERS. Right, so for further information, you can reach out to the New York City Office of Labor Relations. Now, at the beginning of your retirement, and this is very important, so for anyone who's thinking about retirement in the near future, please make a note that at the beginning of your retirement, when you start receiving your benefits from NYCERS, the first several months of your retirement, maybe about 6 to 8 months, the first 6 to 8 months generally are partial payments. Right? So you are not receiving your full pension benefit at the beginning of your retirement. All right, so you want to make a note of that so you are prepared financially. During this time, NYCERS is in contact with CUNY and any other employer within the city of New York to verify your service and your salary, so we can so NYCERS can get ready to calculate your full benefit. So in this interim period, NYCERS is providing those partial payments to you. You will be notified prior to retirement the dollar amount of those partial payments. Okay. Now, when you receive your first pension payment from NYCERS is dependent on your retirement date. So if your retirement date is on the 1st or the 2nd of the month, you will receive that first pension payment from NYCERS at the end of that month. If your retirement date is on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th or any time thereafter, then your first payment from NYCERS will be sent to you at the end of the following month. So that is one reason why it's important you coordinate with your administration department to determine your last day on payroll. So you have an idea of when you can expect your first pension payment from NYCERS. All right, now let's talk about the second key factor that will determine how much money you get at retirement, and that is your final average salary. So for both Tier 4 and Tier 6 members, your final average salary is a 3-year period. All right, so you want to make a note of that. 3-year period for your final average salary. So it's either any 3 consecutive calendar years within your NYCERS membership, or the last 36 months right before you go off payroll. So each of those 3 years will be used as an average to calculate your pension. Right, so again, any 3-year period within your NYCERS membership or the last 36 months, whichever provides the highest average. Now, for Tier 4 members, NYCERS will look at every paycheck for each year in a 5-year period. Right? NYSERS will do that, right, in order to find out and determine where all of your monies was actually earned and not necessarily when it was paid out to you. Right? If needed, NYSERS will have to reallocate the monies to where it was actually earned. That's usually for and majority of the city of New York, especially non-managerial, when contracts are settled and you receive retroactive payments, right? Those retroactive payments, in terms of a NYSERS calculation, has to be determined when you actually earned that money, not in that one-time retroactive payment. So that may have to be done several times, depending on how many contract settlements were made during your career. All right, so that during that time period, during the calculation, NYSERS will be doing that. For Tier 4 members, we're looking at a 5-year period. Now, for Tier 6 members, NYSERS are looking at wages earned during a 7-year period. And NYSERS will be conducting the same investigation to find out when your money was actually earned and not necessarily paid out to you. But once that review is done, NYSERS will use a 3-year period to determine your future lifetime pension benefit. All right. Now, once NYSERS has verified your service and your salary, then we will use these formulas to calculate your benefit. Now, for both Tier 4 and Tier 6 members, if you retire with less than 20 years of NYSERS membership, each year is worth 1.67%. All right, and then that's applied to your final average salary. We have there you go. Thank you, Talon. All right. Now, for example, if you retire with 10 years, that gets you 16.7% of your final average salary. So as you can see, the higher or the more years you have, the higher the percentage you get of your final average salary. Now, as a Tier 4 member, if you get to 20 years, the calculation changes. So between 20 and 30 years, each year is now worth 2%. Now, 20 years gets you 40% of your final average salary. 25 years of NYSERS membership gets you 50% of your final average salary. As you can see, 30 years gets you 60% of your final average salary. So for Tier 4 members, if you exceed 30 years, each year after the 30th year is worth 1.5%. So the longer you go, the higher the percentage you get of your final average salary, your FAS, and in turn, you get more money for your pension. The longer you are on active payroll, the more money you get. For Tier 6 members, 20 years gets you 35% of your final average salary. Each year after the 20th year gives you another 2%. There's no cap, right? So the longer you go, the more percentage you get higher. So for example, if you have 22 years, you get 39% of your final average salary as a Tier 6 member. All right. So at retirement, and only when you reach your retirement date, you will have to determine how your pension is handled after your death. Right? we have retirement options for both Tier 4 and Tier 6. You will make a decision on how your pension is handled after your death. So you have a list of options to choose from. Your benefit will be determined based on which option you choose. You can choose the maximum retirement allowance, the most money possible. Right? If you choose the maximum, then there is no benefit to anyone after your death under the maximum. Now, there are options available, as you can see, whereas you can designate one primary survivor and a benefit can be payable to them after your death. So these options will be available to you once you apply for retirement. Now, just a note or two about retirement options. Again, you're making this decision at retirement, not any time before. The selection of a retirement option is permanent, right? So you cannot come back a year or two after and say, hey, I want to change my mind, right? So once you decide, then that option you select is permanent. The designation of the survivor, so who you pick as a survivor, also permanent. All right. So if you choose your spouse as a survivor, right, and you elect, hey, after my death, I want my spouse to collect my pension after my death, right? And then several years later, maybe you and that spouse separate, differences, you move on. You cannot come back thereafter and say, hey, I want to change my survivor. All right. So that's why, you have plenty of time at retirement. You're not making this decision prior to retirement. You'll have plenty of time after retirement to make this determination. All right, so that's something for future consideration. Now, once you select your retirement option, your pension will be finalized. And remember a few slides ago when we mentioned we're getting partial payments at the beginning of our retirement. Once our pension has been finalized, you do receive a retroactive payment. The difference between those partial payments you were receiving and what your full pension is going to be going forward. So you get that money back. And again, once your pension is finalized. All right, taxes are involved with your pension. Okay. So when you receive your lifetime pension benefit, it is subject to federal income taxes, but as a benefit, you are no longer paying New York City or New York State taxes. Right? Now, if you want to work after retirement, you can do so. Right? So if you're over the age of 65, you can earn as much money as you want in employment and your NYCERS pension will not change. Now, if you're under age 65, and you are also working in a private sector, federal government, public service outside of New York State, public schools, or any public benefit corporations, right? Under the age of 65, you can earn as much money as you want. Your pension will not change. Now, if you're under 65 and you're working for New York City or New York State, you have an earning limitation set at $35,000 for the calendar year. If you exceed that limit, your pension will be suspended for the remainder of that calendar year. Right? So you do have those options to work after you have applied for retirement. All right, so for anyone here today, if you haven't already done so, please sign up for a My NYCERS online account. You can track your entire account online with My NYCERS, right? So computer, laptop, tablet, it doesn't matter. Even your mobile device, we all have one, right? We all either have an iPhone or an Android device. You could download the NYCERS mobile app. You can track your entire account online as well. right? You can view your contributions, your credited service. You can submit questions or inquiries on the online portal as well, right? So, if you don't have time to give us a phone call or visit us, you can submit questions about your account specifically on the mobile app or on the online portal. Our contact information, you can reach us by our website. You can give us a phone call Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We do have our customer service center open. We're located downtown Brooklyn, 340 J Street. Some of us, you know where we are. And we have our mailing address located in Long Island City. So, Talon, that is the end of this presentation. I hope everybody was able to get some information from it, and I'll hang out for as long as possible to address any questions or inquiries.
Thank you,
Anytime
because
as
there
time
are
per-
tons of
I can-
questions.
I can imagine.
So, some of the questions revolve around, meeting with a representative to get advice. Some of them want to meet with you. I don't know if you're available. Do you do in person? Can they come to your location and sit down with someone in person and go over their, information and, plan out their retirement, ask their questions? Or are you only doing Zoom meetings with representatives? What is the situation with meeting with someone at NYSERS?
Yeah, so to sit down with a retirement counselor, we try to utilize appointments um, for sitting down and discussing membership accounts. You can set up an appointment. The easiest way is going to My NYSERS, the online portal, and you can select appointments. Those appointments go by very fast, as you can imagine, very fast. I think we go as far as about maybe 3 or 4 months ahead. So if you don't see any appointment slots available, that means they're all taking up. As you can imagine, people are very interested about retiring in the near future. So, but if you cannot find an appointment, you can still walk in and try to sit down with someone. The wait might be a little bit longer, especially if it's during lunch hours. So between, I'd say, 10:30, 11 o'clock to about 3, it is very crowded. The wait times are a little bit lengthy. Early in the morning or late afternoon, better wait times if you're walking in, right? Unfortunately, I'm not available for retirement consultations. I am, doing these similar presentations for other agencies and union membership groups, almost on a daily basis. So I am not available for consultation, unfortunately. Um, I did I answer all of those questions, Helen?
Yeah, there's still so much more.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, I mean, this is kind of, they're in the 57.5 plan. They have 10 years of service. Can they retire at 57 with retiree health? On the face of it, it seems yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. So, how do retroactive collective bargaining salary changes affect a final average salary? What if somebody retired and then received retroactive increases? How does a NYSERS treat those salary increases?
Yeah, we treat that similar to pre-retirement retroactive, right? So it's similar, right? Obviously different because you are already retired. NYSERS will automatically, number one, in most cases, NYSERS already knows. We receive that payroll information for anyone who's retired and receives a retroactive payment. NYSERS already knows, but I would still suggest that you go to our website or you go to our website. The form is not available electronically, unfortunately. Most of our forms you can submit on our website. This form is only by paper. It's form number 544. It's a revision form. And again, these are for retirees. So I don't think anybody here is a retiree, but there is a form where you can submit your retroactive payment, right? It'll ask for the date, the dollar amount, and you can submit a copy of the pay stub, or the information you receive of that retroactive payment. NYCERS will go ahead and immediately revise your pension based on that additional salary. So NYCERS revises your pension automatically, but again, you can file that form, so you have it on file.
Okay, can you explain the additional contributions again? I have New York City 414H.
Additional contributions. So for anyone in the 57.5 or 55.25 retirement plan, you're paying additional member contributions, right? Right now it's at 1.85% of your gross wages. You pay that up until 30 years of NYCERS membership. And again, if you retire, again, this is for anyone in the 57.5 or 55.25. If you retire after the age of 62, you get back those additional contributions at 50%. And that's an automatic refund. So you don't have to file an application to get those contributions back. If you retire after the age of 62, that's an immediate and automatic refund at 50%.
Okay. And then once the final pension amount is calculated, they get all that, whatever they were shorted for that first 6 to 8 months, they get that all back.
In the first full pension payment, you get all the retroactive payment included. Yes.
Okay. Does it matter if your retirement date falls on a Saturday or Sunday?
Does not matter. Holiday, weekend, doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the chat now. There's so much. Oh my goodness. When I look in PMS, my tier says 3. I am curious as to what tier I am really in. How should they find out exactly what tier they're in?
Definitely any correspondence from NYCERS, or call us or visit us directly. We'll let
If
you know
they
for sure.
if they create a My NYCERS, would they see that there? Okay.
You land on the homepage of My NYCERS, it tells you your tier and your retirement plan as well. Absolutely, Tyler. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Please clarify if it's necessary to buy back AMCs that since I transferred back into NYCERS after they were refunded when I transferred to another agency. I don't know what AMCs are, do you?
AMCs are additional member contributions.
Oh,
So that's
additional
like,
member contributions.
yeah,
All right, so I guess it was refunded to them and then they came back to an agency. Can they put that back in? I guess that's what they're asking.
So yeah, so if someone was Chapter 96, you left and got a refund of your contributions, I assume they left, right? They applied
Yeah,
for the refund.
yeah.
And now you're back. Then
You have to buy back time, right?
well, you can buy back time, but what would be more beneficial is the reinstatement process.
Okay.
The reinstatement, and then NYCERS will give you the cost of what you have to pay back. So for a reinstatement, right, to go back to your previous membership, the cost will be, in general, the cost will be the dollar amount that was refunded to you, plus interest. Right, so
Okay.
the dollar amount that was sent back to you. Now, if someone took a distribution directly, the IRS took 20%, right? Now, when you come back and NYCERS calculates the cost for reinstatement, we're calculating for the full refund. So whatever you lost to the IRS, that's still required to give back, plus the interest that would accrue in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking about buying back time. How do I find out about buying back time from New York State retirement system before you actually do it? Once you ask them, they give you a calculation and then you decide if you want to spend that money or not. So
Yeah.
nobody's going to do anything until you approve buying back time and set up a payment structure.
Yep. And also, just to add to that, if you have a My Nicers account, we also provide like an estimate of the cost for buyback. So even before you submit the buyback application, you can estimate the cost. You can try to, guess or estimate what your salary was during that time and get an estimate of that as well. But yeah, also put the time frame on the buyback application. Nicers will investigate it for you, and then you decide if you want to pay for it or not.
Okay, is there a death benefit to help pay for funerals?
No.
That's DC 37.
Yeah, I believe
You should
that's
ask DC 37 that, yeah. Can they get credit for working as a work study student at a CUNY school?
You mean in terms of buyback? I assume that's
For
buyback.
credit, service credit.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think so. But if you want to know for sure, you can submit the buyback application and
Right.
we'll let you know for sure. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Is there a cutoff at which point in your years of service you're no longer benefiting, like someone who's up to age 40? I mean, not age 40, 40 years of service? Is there
Yeah.
like a
No cutoff.
cutoff where there's no more benefit to it?
Nope. The longer you were on, the more money you get.
Okay,
And there's no
great.
cap to that. Yeah.
Okay, no cap. Your last year of work is based on your years of service, not a calendar year. My NYSER shows employee amount for Chapter 96 and an employer amount. How much of that will I receive at retirement? If I am over 62, do I have to go to NYSER's office in order to retire? No.
Yeah, I'm not, I didn't get the question. I'm sorry, Talon.
Sorry, my NYSER shows a employee amount for Chapter 96 and an employer amount. How much of that will I receive at retirement if I am over 62?
Oh, you get back the employee portion. Yeah, employee
Okay.
portion. The employer portion stays with NYSERS. Employee portion goes back to the member.
Is there a Long Island location, NYSERS?
No, there's a Long Island City
Oh, Long
mailing
Island City.
facility. So, but it's not a walk-in.
It's
So
not a walk-in.
Yeah, don't go to Long Island City.
Don't go to
Long
Long,
Island.
okay. Okay. Can I share your slides with them?
Yes, I can. I'll send you the presentation, Talon, and you can
Okay.
share with your employees. Absolutely.
Okay. Are we New York State retiree or New York City retiree? We're New York City retirees.
Yeah.
But you can
Yeah.
get, if you work for New York State, you can get credit.
Now, I
Sure.
do understand.
Yeah.
CUNY is the only organization where there's like this gray area of New York State and New York City. So
Yeah,
I
because we're on
kinda
the
understand.
state, because
Yeah.
the senior colleges are on the state payroll.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it gets confusing. Yeah. All right. So when should they talk to somebody when they're considering retiring? Talk to a counselor at NYSERS 6 months prior, a year prior, 3 months prior? What's the ideal lead time for that?
There's no ideal. If you're thinking about it now, come and talk to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Ideally, you should like at least ideally every year we have available the annual disclosure statements, like usually every April and May. It's only on My NYSERS online portals, so I would suggest everybody at least take a look at that for a few minutes every year. But thinking about retirement, if you're thinking about 2-3 years out, come and talk to us.
Okay. I noticed my NYSERS contribution has stopped. Why
That's
would their
good.
NYSERS contribution stop?
Well, that's good if you're tier 4, and then
Okay,
yeah, then
if you're tier 4, it's good.
yeah, more money in your pocket. But tier 6, you pay until you leave city service.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tom. Let me just say, if you're supposed to be making contributions and it stops, contact NYSERS immediately. We'll we will review it for you.
Okay. I heard NICERS is backed up, so if the retiree's pension check is backlogged, say 1 year, the first check will still be a partial payment?
No, you'll still receive the advance payments, those partial payments. You're gonna get that immediately. So if you retire January 1st, your first pension payment from NICERS will come to you January 31st. So there's no delay in that at all. Now in terms of finalizing the pension, that we used to have a backlog because of the COVID pandemic, that things were getting backed up. But we've been catching up each and every year. Now, a general case, I would say, would take about 6 to 8 months to finalize.
Okay. What is a deficit? How can I find out whether I have a deficit or not?
Deficit is from the day you join NICERS up until today. If for some reason NICERS did not ascertain contributions for a certain period of time, that causes a deficit. If you want to know, the easiest and quickest way is to submit an inquiry online with my NICERS account, and NICERS will run the investigation for you. It may take some time, maybe several months, to get to your case and to calculate a deficit.
Can loan repayments be deducted from pension checks?
No. No.
So what happens if you have an outstanding loan and you retire?
Yeah, outstanding loans at retirement, it reduces your pension permanently. So usually for every $1,000 you owe on a loan at retirement, it will reduce your annual pension by $100. So for example, if you owe what was the exact? Okay, if you owe like $20,000 on a loan and then retire, you're losing about $2,000 per year off your annual pension.
So, what happens if they pay it back? Will the
Um,
pension go back up?
Yes, you can pay it. You can pay it back at any time. If you do, your pension goes back up to the maximum calculated going forward. But you can only pay back the dollar amount that you owed at retirement, right? So let's say, for example, at retirement you owed $10,000 and your pension was reduced for about 5 years, and then you come back, you want to pay for it, it's still $10,000 to pay off that loan, right? So, but yes, you can come back at any time during retirement, pay off the lump sum balance, and your pension will be restored.
Okay. I think all the questions were covered. Let me just give one more opportunity. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, this is your time to do it. Donna, my account on NICERS has never been updated. It'll get updated once you apply for retirement. I mean, you can ask your HR office to update your service with NICERS now, but once you apply for retirement, they're going to get a final, precise service calculation, so to make sure that you get the your full pension and not a reduced because of unaccounted years of service. Okay. Colleen O'Neill, you have a question?
Hi, yes. If I wanted to go into NICERS, will they only talk to me because I'm the employee, or if I wanted to bring my brother with me because he's pretty savvy with a lot of things, if I wanted him to come with me, would they speak to me and him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he comes by himself, we're not talking to him, but
right.
If he comes with you, absolutely.
But thank you, Talon. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. It was a great seminar. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Does anybody else have a question they want to ask Frank?
Are you going to talk about tier 3 next time?
There is no more tier 3. Anyone who is a tier 3 member currently right now is a tier 4 member. So the only tier 3 members right now are correction officers. Correction officers are the only tier 3 members. Anyone else is a tier 4 member. Some people are tier 4 members with tier 3 rights. But regardless, the only time I mention tier 3 is when I'm talking to New York City correction officers.
So how can we update our information then? Because on my CUNY First account, it says tier 3.
I mean, I would definitely start with NYCERS, right? Contact us. When you log on to My NYCERS, if you haven't done it yet, create an account. Reach out to NYCERS. Make sure we have the correct information. We can give you correspondence, a document saying you are a tier 4 member, and then if you want to backtrack to anyone just to correct your information on file.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I started with SUNY Downstate in 1996. Then in 2000, I was hired at CUNY LaGuardia Community College. Then I transferred to Queens College, the senior college, not QCC. However, when I got there at LaGuardia, they told me I couldn't transfer any of my retirement from SUNY Downstate. Upon reaching Queens College, then they said I can do my TIAA CREF to TIAA. But I'm still confused because NYSLR, which is a state, and NYSER, which is where I'm at right now, I'm not sure. Everyone's case is unique. Mine is too as well. I just need to know if I can make an appointment, and I would be able, the questions would be able, I would be able to get the answers I'm looking for if I should make an appointment with your office. This is for
Yeah, so to my knowledge, and Talon, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But to my knowledge, SUNY Downstate is more private, isn't it? Or is that within
No,
within
it's a
CUNY?
state.
Public. It's
It's public?
public, but the thing is that you could have had your NYSLRS service transferred to NYSERS,
Right.
and then NYSERS would have honored your original tier that you had with NYSLRS. It's not too late to do that, is it, Frank?
Okay.
Not too late, yeah. And then also, yes, absolutely correct, Talon. And also TIA, like you mentioned, TIA CREF, NYSERS or NYSLRS will not accept that. So if you're, if you have like that account, we're not taking that. It's only the accredited service with NYSLRS that we will accept.
Oh, okay.
And that
Did you
can do at
join
any time.
TIAA?
I joined TIAA, yes, and I also joined TIAA CREF at
Okay.
NYSLR.
Well, that's the same.
Yeah, that's
All
the
right,
same.
we should talk offline, Charmaine. How's that?
Yes, Talon,
Yeah.
yes.
And,
Yeah,
and
we'll talk
Talon,
offline.
if you need any
Okay.
assistance with that, just let me know.
Yes.
Okay.
Barbara, you have a question? You have your hand raised? No? Barbara, you have your hand raised. All right, well, anybody else have a question before we're 13 minutes over, but it's very rare we get Frank, so if you have a question, ask away.
I have a quick
Before we do
question.
Go ahead.
Somebody told me that if you retire, your retirement date is in between a full year, you lose that part of the year. Is that true?
Not true at all.
No, your service is based on your individual dates, not a calendar year. You don't lose anything,
Yep. And to the hour.
right?
So,
So if you have 28 years and 4 months, you get 28 years and 4 months credit.
and that's applied to your pension. Absolutely.
Okay. Tier 3, my other question is, I'm past the 25 years, but not under the 30. How does that work? Are you getting extra credit for the other 3 years or 4 years?
No. Yeah, whether it was tier going back to tier 3 again, tier 4, all hours that you're paid for, that is what you're getting credit for. There was something like that for tier 1 and tier 2 membership called pension enhancement. But that does not apply to tier 3, 4, or 6.
Okay. So if you're, say I have 28 years. Does that go up the 2% for over the, the other 3 years over the 25?
Yeah, if you have 28 years of credited service, you multiply that by 2. I don't know off the top of my head what that is. It's maybe 56%, I think. You get 56% of your final average salary for your pension.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, I think we've taken up enough of Frank's time. And of course, this
Q&A's
was
fun.
recorded. I'll put the recording up by the end of the week, hopefully, and then you can always go back and re-listen to it if you have to. So, okay.
Yeah. Talon, thank you very much for inviting
Thank you,
NYSERS.
Frank.
As you know, we are a little bit in a transitional period with Ingrid's retirement. I have a bunch of interns right now. They're managing the stuff, so please have some patience. But Talon, at any point, if you have any questions or you need help, assistance with anything, please reach out to me. We're here
Thank
to
you.
help. It's a partnership.
And I just want to remind everybody that we're not the only ones that do these seminars. NYSERS does their own seminars, so you can always attend this again on in a presentation that NYSERS hosts. We usually send out announcements to the campuses, to employees, and give you the opportunity to participate in those as well. So no
Talon,
shortage of information.
Talon, you should be receiving a stipend from NYSERS because tomorrow, you just reminded me, tomorrow there is a NYSERS Lunch and Learn event that throughout the city of New York is invited to. So Talon, if you don't have it, I'll send you the link one more time. You can give it to your people. They could register tomorrow at 12 o'clock. You could join us. We have a lot of space open. It'll be a similar presentation to what we had today. You might not get your questions like the Q&A this time because it'll be a lot more people. But if you want another presentation like this tomorrow at 12, Talon, I'll send you the link. You give to.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank you to all the speakers. It was great. Thank you.
But I'm glad you found it to be informative and useful. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day. Have an amazing summer. Summer Friday started this week. I'm so excited. Let's go out and enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Talon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Talon.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Talon.
Bye.